All right, Ben Deuling. Welcome to the MossBack Syndicate.
Are we on? Are we live?
We are. It says that we're live now. So take two.
Oh, yeah.
Cool. Oh my gosh. On. All right. So in that case, hello everyone. I'm Andrew Reed with Mossy Creek Mushrooms, the head of the MossBack Syndicate, and with me is, why don't you introduce yourself?
My name is Benjamin Deuling, and I'm the owner of SporeAttic, which is a commercial mushroom farm here in Bozeman, Montana.
Very nice. So, just so everyone knows, we're very late because we actually started the stream already, and my grandpa I forgot to hit go live. So, yeah, the simplest of things. But so, Ben with SporeAttic from Bozeman. Let me ask you a couple questions then. Number one, how many pounds of mushrooms are you growing every week?
So we're scaling it up every single week. We're growing more than the week before. Last week we grew 298 pounds. This week I think we're on track for probably 300 to 350. And my hope is to level out around 400 and kind of hold at 400 all summer long.
Okay.
And beyond.
And what?
And beyond.
Oh,
we'll hold that 400 for a while.
Okay.
I think that's kind of my goal, my bar that I want to stick to.
Okay. Yeah, I want to come back to that and ask you another question about that. But first, how long have you been in business for to be doing 350 pounds in a week? How long? Yeah, give me an idea of what's your experience level there.
So we launched on Halloween on October 31st, so about 6.5 months ago. And, we started out doing 40, 50 pounds, and it's just consistently been growing every single week. We've been just optimizing our systems. I've got 2 employees working for me, one full-time, one part-time. We just brought on an intern. So we're really trying to grow pretty rapidly. But, within reason, within a manageable pace, I guess.
Yeah. So how many employees?
We got one full-time, one part-time.
And then do you pay yourself a wage?
What's that?
Do you pay yourself a wage?
And myself, yeah. I pay myself not a lot, just enough to pay the bills, like the bare minimum.
Okay, yeah, which is the owner's dilemma, right?
Yeah. I guess, there's 3 employees, 1 intern, and then we do have 1 other person who helps us out at farmers markets. So we got a team of 5.
Wow, and so you're able to support, sounds like, quite a few people on a relatively small farm.
Yeah, it's a little tiny farm. It's like 940 square foot, but it is dense. I mean, we're using every square foot of that farm. And I mean, we designed it and built it from the ground up, so we could really optimize the exact layout to make it as efficient as possible. Okay. And we built it with an upper limit of about 600 pounds a week, we think is kind of what we could really cap out at after a couple of years when everything's totally dialed. So it's tiny, but like you said, we're supporting multiple people's paychecks, and so it has to work. Is the motive. There's no option of it not working. My full-time employee, she just left a job. She was a manager for 5 years at a local restaurant, and she left that job to come work for me. So that's when it kind of got real. I was like, oh, this has to work. This can't not work.
Yeah, for sure, man. I get that. Like, and just from my own experience, like when you get them and they have kids, oh, that's somehow that much like the stress factor on that. You're like, oh crap, I've got to make sure that I can pay them every week or those kids go hungry. Like,
well, she does. She does have kids.
Does she have kids? Oh shoot. So
yeah. Her partner also has a job too, though, so it's a little bit of a weight off of my shoulders. But no, it's all the more real.
Good. Well, shoot. So I know a fair amount about your story already. We talk pretty regularly. I believe I was there pretty early on in the inception of your business.
Yeah, 100%. I was actually just thinking about that right before we jumped on. it's kind of interesting. It was probably about a year ago, maybe like 14 months ago, that me and you did our consultation.
Was it really a year ago now?
It, yeah. I mean, we started building in June. I graduated in May, so it was a few months before, because I hadn't even started writing my master's thesis. I was still focused on the business. Yeah, we did our consultation probably 14 months ago or so, and that was just an idea. I sent you over my facility floor plans and had you and Ben look everything over, and it's kind of cool to think how how much has come along in just like 14 months or so.
It's a lot has changed. So
yeah.
Before I get into like, let's go into more of your background. I do have a question about COVID. Like, how do you feel like starting your business during COVID? Like, what did that do for you? Did it do bad? Like, did it cause really bad problems for you? Did it cause good problems? Did you even notice that you were in COVID since you were, how'd that go?
So there's about 10 different things I could say about this.
Okay.
So on one front, this is going to sound messed up, but COVID happening, I genuinely believe is the only reason I actually finished grad school. Because like I was in this situation of like phasing out of a PhD and getting into a master's program so I could like run the hurry up and get out with a degree. But at the same time, we had all these pitch competitions and grant deadlines, and I had all the arrangements with the farmers out at Three Hearts Farm to build our facility, and I had been crunching the numbers daily, and I knew wholeheartedly, like, I do not have enough money to launch this business.
Yeah.
And I tried to get a loan. I asked for like $15,000. They wouldn't give me anything less than 30. And I was like, actually 35. They wanted me to take out 35. And I was like, I can't do that. I need to come up with this money.
Yeah.
So I got real creative and resourceful, and we were doing all kinds of pitch competitions. I was spending every second of my life that I wasn't like in school designing this business, or I was doing random odd jobs around Bozeman. So I was raking leaves, mowing grass, picking up dog poop, doing roofing, siding, painting, like everything. So because the pressure was so real. I knew, assuming I finished grad school, May, like second week of May, I'm done. And I don't have another job, and I've crunched the numbers. I don't have enough money in my life to support my life and this business. So I had a very, very hard time focusing on grad school. My mom was going crazy. She's like, Ben, you still haven't started writing your thesis? You have like 2 months. And I was like, Mom, I'll get it done, but like, I can't sleep. I had so much going on, and then all of a sudden the world shut down overnight. So I no longer had a class to teach. I no longer had a lab to work in. I no longer had classes to take. I had nothing else, and this big pitch competition that we were working on, we knew we had a shot at winning some like pretty significant money, and so like I was laser focused on this pitch competition, and that got postponed. It got put off. They were like, we'll figure it out. You guys are all in, but we gotta wait and see what happens with COVID. So all of a sudden, I went from having like my schedule booked every second of every day to all of a sudden I have nothing. But to write that dang thesis. Like, sit down, lock yourself in your room for 2-3 months, and just write the thesis and do nothing else. That's exactly what I did. I mean, I'd wake up, hop on my laptop, and I'd go until I dropped.
So what was your thesis on?
I wrote so when I presented my business plan to my advisors, and I was in a PhD program, I told them, hey, I've been working on something, and I handed them my business plan, and I just started talking for like 45 minutes and staring at the ground, and I told them all about this mushroom farm I want to start up, and they were stoked. They were like, dude, Ben, you have to do this. We've never seen this kind of fire in you before. Like, in the 2.5 years you've worked for us, we've never seen this. Like, you have to chase this.
Yeah.
And so let's get you out of here with a master's. You're clearly not like into the PhD, so let's get you out of here with a master's so you don't leave empty-handed. And while we're at it, you're clearly not into the research that we're doing on the gut microbiome and all that. So why don't you write a Plan B research paper on something related to mushrooms? I'm like, okay, so there's this kind of hot topic right now. Lion's mane mushrooms is like huge, like everyone's fired up about lion's mane mushrooms, that it's going to be this next big thing. It's going to prevent Alzheimer's. It's going to enhance cognition and all this stuff. And I was like, I kind of want to get to the bottom of that, because that'd be a valuable thing for me to know, and I can use that in my day-to-day life. So they were like, sweet, run with it, do it. So that's what I wrote. My thesis was what was it? It was the cognitive, behavioral, and gut health effects of lion's mane mushrooms.
Oh, okay.
You and I
talked about how you did the cognitive stuff, but I did not know anything about the gut health part, I don't think. So.
I shouldn't have. I realized that's way too much stuff. I thought that was narrowed. Like in grad school, you're supposed to like zoom in and then zoom in more and then zoom in more, and then that's what you write on. And I thought I did that, but oh man, this was a huge topic. Like I should have just done gut health or just done cognition or just done behavioral, but I did all three. And so that was a very hard 3 months. And I banged it out. I got the whole thing done. I reviewed 153 publications, and I ended up writing like a 60-page critical review paper on lion's mane.
What were your findings on that?
My findings were, I'm going to be careful with how I word this.
Okay.
But what is talked about in present day media, all like of this stuff about lion's mane enhancing cognition and it's going to prevent Alzheimer's, and this is all research based, evidence based stuff. I would challenge that. What I found were there were absolutely no human studies to back any of those ideas. When I wrote my paper, and this was just over a year ago, there were exactly 4 human trials that had ever been conducted on lion's mane mushrooms. Paul Stamets loves to reference these 4 studies. Mm-hmm. I had 11 pages of my thesis were dedicated to just ripping those 4 studies apart.
Interesting. Okay.
They were not good, to say the least. The statistics is not good. They outright lie. They say something, here's their data, it shows no significant difference between placebo and lion's mane treated groups, and then their conclusions like, we have definitively shown that lion's mane can be an effective enhancer of cognition or mood or whatever.
Interesting.
No, you didn't.
Well, fair enough. So much for being careful about what you say, I guess.
It was a really frustrating time because I went through 2.5 years of grad school, and the whole time you're in all these journal clubs. Every single class you take has a journal club component of it. So you're always reading these like dense, high quality studies, and you're looking at their data, you're looking at their statistics, and then you come together as a group and you talk about what was good, how could they have improved. Yeah. And so for 2.5 years, I was looking at like good, high quality science, things that are published in these very reputable journals like Nature and Science and PNAS, and these are all the closest that we can get to, truth. The like scientific peer review process, a critical review process is very valuable in us understanding truth.
Yeah.
Whatever. None of, like, a lot of these studies were like every one of these 153 studies, like every one of them, maybe there was a couple that weren't, they were all published in these journals that I'd never heard of. I'd look up the journal and they'd have these incredibly low ratings of, I forget what there's like a score, if Nature is the highest end publication, the most reputable, and its score is 50, all of these journals were like 1 or 2, basically saying like, these are terrible journals, like bad peer review process, it's just not good science. And you could see that when you read these things, you're like, I could have I would have been able to call this out and say, no, like you need to go run that experiment again. You need to crunch your numbers again. So it was just bad science, unfortunately. What I will say, there was a lot of very good science on the like in vitro, in vivo, like cell culture and animal studies. Like there's very, very promising work being done in cell cultures. And in animals, they have all these different animal models that represent, like as close as we can get to representing Alzheimer's in a rat or a guinea pig. And then you treat them with either an extract of lion's mane or an extract of the mycelium, or you feed them the lion's mane. And there were a lot of studies where their behavior improved, they could get through the maze better, they weren't so cognitively impaired. And there's very, very compelling high quality science up through animal studies. So there's nothing in humans.
I guess what you're saying is that it's not that there isn't any science whatsoever to support that it may be possibly beneficial.
We're just not there yet.
Right.
But what I have to believe is what happens in science often is you do an experiment. If it ends up being not significant, a lot of people just don't publish because that's not exciting. That's not sexy. That doesn't get notoriety.
Right.
You shouldn't. It's a fault of the scientific process. But we just generally don't publish a lot of insignificant data. It's we all have this bias where my next grant, my next publication, it depends on me producing something significant.
Yeah.
And that's a failure in our system. So who knows how many hundreds of experiments have been done with lion's mane, maybe clinical trials even, and then just nothing happened. It was, no difference between placebo and lion's mane treated group, so we're just not going to publish it. Keep moving. We don't want to sit here and spend 6 months writing the manuscript. That's a lot of work to write the manuscript. Let's just do a different experiment instead.
Sure.
Okay, so that's what I think. So I wouldn't ever go out and say, lion's mane won't be beneficial for treating cognitive impairment, or it can't produce a cognitive boost. We don't know that. I like science. I like to stand by the science, and to me the science does not support it yet.
I can see that. So speaking of science, I assume your bachelor's and master's are up in microbiology is what you said, right?
My bachelor's was in just biology with a minor in nutrition and a minor in chemistry. And then my master's was in microbiology.
Okay, so I took Bio-D is what they called it. Biodiversity is what we called it. It wasn't Biology 101, it was Biodiversity, which was the biology major's major, or the biology major's biology class is what I should say. But that's as far as I ever got. So I never took micro. Do you feel like taking microbiology prepared you, in a collegiate setting, prepared you for the kind of work you'd be doing as a production mycologist, we'll call you?
I would say the lab work, absolutely. There's nothing, I couldn't be more qualified for this job. There's no other job. I could take my master's in microbiology. I couldn't apply it to anything else that I care about and be actually good at it. And what I mean by that is I did a lot of sterile cell culture work. I was working in flow hoods, doing sterile cell transfers and propagating cultures and maintaining cultures, and that's what you do when you're a mushroom farmer. We all have these flow hoods where you put the furnace fan in front of a HEPA filter and it's good enough. And I was working in these $50,000 huge all enclosed.
You're talking about the biosafety cabinets and stuff.
Put your arms in gloves and it's an anaerobic sterile environment. All this. So I had the experience of working in that environment for years, for 2.5 years. And that's what always drew me into science is the experimentation is a blast. It's fun to do that. So you plant, you start up a culture, you did some kind of a transformation or something, and then you go home at midnight and sleep, and then you come back in the morning. You're like, did it work? No, it never works. But it's always that's the kind of stuff that's exciting. What I hated was the grant writing, the chasing publications, journals. Like you got to go where funding is. Like it's just wherever the money is where you're gonna do your science. And like as you progress in the academic field or in academia, you spend less and less time at the lab bench. And like that was the fun part for me. Like that's where I want to be. So then I was like, okay, do I want to be a lab technician? And I'd look around at all these lab technicians, and I don't particularly want to do what they're doing. They're still reading, 3-4 papers a day and coming up with all like. It's just too much, and that's where mushroom farming is fantastic. Most of the lab techs I've talked to, we're always chatting like, "Hey, I'm gonna try adding this to my substrate," and then like, "Oh, holy cow, I got an extra half-pound yield out of it." Right. I don't need to go publish that. I don't need to like get anyone else's approval. If it works, it works. Like, sweet, I'm in control of my own domain, and I can share that with you guys. There's my peer review process. Send it to Jesse. Send it to you. Send it to Daly. They do it. Hey, it worked for me too. Sweet. Awesome. That's the fun part of science.
Oh, for sure, man. I completely agree. But I also had that moment where I had to figure out, like, did I really want to be in research? And I quickly figured out that research was not really where I wanted to be, at least not in academia. But right. I also was like, okay, well, I like doing lab work. Or so I thought, until I realized that lab techs, like I talked to a lab technician and he was like, yeah, I went to school for 4 years for microbiology and now I pour agar plates for a living at a hospital.
Yep.
And he just mixes media and pours and he gets paid $15 an hour. And I was like, oh, I can get paid $15 an hour to go watch a bottle machine make bottles at a factory instead of, So
and that's what, like, in that trajectory, like, you start out, you do undergrad, then you go to grad school, then you do a postdoc, maybe you do a second postdoc, then you get, your assistant professorship, and then hopefully someday by the time you're 65 years old, you get tenure. And then you're like, yeah, now I'm like, yeah.
Now I get to do what I want.
And like, there's only one of those positions for every 10 grad students. So, like, I know I'm not the best of the best in that world. You can look around. I'm like, okay, you're going to make it. You're going to make it. I'm not making it. Like, so I'm going to end up pouring plates in a lab, or I'm going to end up, just doing some repetitive, sterile thing, for some hospital or teaching some labs,
Oh, yeah.
It was
and thank goodness that there are people out there who will do that.
Or what's that?
I was saying and thank goodness that there are people who will do that and want to do that. But
right, yeah.
But it's
I don't
not
mean to back anyone's career choice. It just wasn't. I would never have made it. I'd go crazy.
Yeah, man, me too. Well, that's actually what got me into, like, I was working in factories and then I lost my job right around 08, 09 and went back to school for biology and read I saw 6 Ways Mushrooms Can Help Save the World, which it's interesting to think back on that now. And then I read Mycelium Running, and that really got me into, okay, how about I do more of this mushroom thing? And then I ended up quitting school and going to work at a fish hatchery, and that's where I started working right before I started the mushroom business. I started it right about the same time. But I knew I was already preparing to, because I remember talking to my biology professor about how I wanted to get into mushrooms, and she said, do it. She said, you've got to go do it. She said she thinks that there's going to be big money in fungus over the next decades. And that she thought it'd be a good position to be in. And I lo and behold, I thought, well, that's pretty nice, but I did not realize that she meant, someone like myself who is, 1 year of college under my belt, with a couple of failing classes in that 1 year. And, and then you can go to make it a full-time living, growing out of the basement.
Get ready.
Maybe.
That's what I think about my professors that are like, Ben, you got to go do this. I'm like, were they really like supportive, or were they like, oh, thank God, get them out of here?
Right. Well, I don't think so because did you guys ever do sea ferns?
Did we do what?
Sea ferns?
Uh-uh.
Okay. Well, we did sea ferns. Apparently, sea ferns were more commonly done in school back in the 90s, but we did them because my teacher liked doing them. So when my professor had us doing it, we went to lab and we went to go check on our plates, and I noticed that one of my plates happened to have a mold growing on it. Mm-hmm. And so I asked her, I was like, oh, can I take this out of the high light area and put it in the dark and like actually let the mold grow and see what happens? And she was like, well, sure, why not? And we did, and then we were checking the sea ferns out underneath the microscope, and so of course I get my mold plate and I look at it under the microscope. And what was cool is that you could see the filaments, they like would curl up on themselves. So they'd start out straight and they'd start to swell with this like bubble on the end, and then they would like curl in, and that bubble would continue to grow until all of a sudden they would do like that. And it would throw that spore. What are you doing?
I was trying to squeeze your muscles.
You were trying to squeeze my muscles. So anyways, but it would flick the spores. Like it would swell up with water pressure, and then it would flick. Like, and it was so cool. So I started giggling like a madman. So my professor comes over and she looks at it and she's like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "Oh, mold flicking." You know, it's just like, she's like, "What?" So she's sitting there watching it, and then she's like, "No way, no way! Oh my God, it flicked it! It flicked it!" And I was like, "Yeah." And that's like, you know, right there, I was like, "Oh, I love biology people just for that like excitement of seeing that kind of stuff." But like I definitely was like thinking I would rather go to, like I was going to go to University of Tennessee, I was thinking, after I got done with the associate's program. And I was really thinking that I would go into, because UT has got one of the few mycology programs in the country. But I called those guys and I talked to them, and they were just not really having it, not really like, I don't know, almost kind of rude, I hate to say. But so I was like, screw that, I'm just going to go into probably the agricultural campus, which they have a really nice agricultural campus too. Lo and behold, I didn't do either one of those things because I really hate school. So I just started digging into mushrooms.
Yeah. Some people are just like, it doesn't mean anything is wrong with you.
Right.
But some people are not cut out for school. And like, great, figure that out and go do something else.
Right. Go find another niche. But
that's incredible. Like, that's like my older brother. His whole mission is like creating his whole movement is like bring back shop class. Like there's all kinds of these people who, you know, like him, you're just not gonna make it in like math and science, and like it just doesn't work. But that doesn't mean I'm not gifted and talented and capable of a lot. So give these kids an opportunity to shine in something other than the classroom, and if they figure it out young, like that might lead to an amazing career.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, well, and trades are a good place to go anyways. Which, I mean, I think farming, I don't know if farming technically falls into the trade category, but I kind of place it there, and I really like farming. But, I actually remember how I got on this tangent now, because we were talking about academia and where we were placed, and I realized I didn't want to be a technician of any sort either. It wasn't for a while that I figured out that I guess what I really wanted to be was a business owner or a farm owner. You know, I like working with the stuff, but I like you were talking about doing the experiments. Like I don't have to ask anybody to do an experiment. I just plan the experiment and execute the experiment now. And that was kind of the sweet spot that I wanted to be too. So I guess all of that we've talked about just now was me trying to get to that point where I was saying that I completely get you. Like I wanted to be involved in the experimentation. And what's cool about mushrooms is there's just so much experimentation to do.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we've talked about 3 or 4 different ideas just in the last couple of weeks, and I'm like, oh yeah, baby, it's like, let's do it.
That's true.
I mean, it's the same thing. Like, you run into the grow room the next day, and you're like, oh, is it working? Like, oh man, we got an extra 1.5 pounds on this because we did it this way. Like, I can't wait to tell everyone.
And by everyone, he means people on the Discord, so... You know,
you mean Jesse?
You mean Jesse, right? That's pretty much who we all mean. Like he's the most active member in that Discord. Oh goodness. Well, let's see. what else can I ask you? That's right. So you said you were doing about 350 pounds a week.
Yeah.
Or
Well,
that's what you're doing this week.
Let's see. I think we're probably on track for 350 this week.
Okay.
We did we've been harvesting between 50 and 80 pounds every day. Yesterday was our biggest harvest. We harvested 85 pounds. I was in the grow room for like 5 hours yesterday. It was
5
awesome.
hours.
It was awesome, but I was like, holy cow! Like as we scale up, the amount of time we spend in the grow room harvesting is like it's significant because we trim everything. So like I want my mushrooms to be like pristine. So it's not like pick it off the block, put it in the box. You know, I'm like,
no, man, that's the way you got to do it.
Set it on the cutting board, get all the substrate off, inspect it real good, scale, get a weight on it. Okay, package.
Oh my gosh, Ben, you're willing to work too hard. No, man.
Yeah.
You gotta give them chefs that substrate too. That way they know that it's real.
Yeah. I like knowing that I'm giving them the best product that I can possibly give them. So if someone else starts up in Bozeman tomorrow, maybe that's one more thing I have going for me is that my product might be that little bit much better, and hopefully they'll stick with me because they know my quality control is as good as I can get it.
Yeah,
I want to set that standard.
I can dig that for sure. So how much are you selling mushrooms by the pound for?
We do the same thing as you. Wholesale, we go 10-pound cases, and so we do 80, 100, or 120, depending on the variety. So oysters, all the oysters we grow, $80 a case. King trumpets and black pearl, $100 a case, and then our specialties are lion's mane, comb tooth, and chestnut. And then whenever we experiment with like Piopinos or Enoki or whatever, those go into the specialties. Fat man poplar, just whatever the specialty is.
So, honest opinion then. What do you think of the Fat Man?
I wasn't stoked on it. It's a good eating mushroom.
So if I can improve anything about it, what would you want me to improve about it?
There's two things. The yield was it just wasn't a good yielder.
That's true.
Most of the time, I couldn't get a second flush on it. It just wouldn't grow where I put, it'd grow everywhere else in the bag. So the first flush would come in and be like a half pound to a pound. I think one time I had like a 1.2 pound. I know. You asked.
I really do want an honest.
It's a beautiful mushroom, so I would always do. I'd pack a case of chestnuts and lion's mane, and then maybe like a pound or two of those Fat Man poplars.
Yeah,
and it like really makes that specialty case like pop. Poplar, pop.
Boy, Samantha would be in love with that.
But the other thing is by the time the second, because whether I grow it out of the same hole for the second flush or I would tape it up and cut a new hole, usually the second flush would get moldy within like just a couple days. Like there'd be green mold growing all over where I cut it open. So I don't think it was a very vigorous strain.
Okay. Okay, I will work on that. So yield and vigor, I can do. Have you tried the little boy yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
Now, what happened was I experimented with a Pioppino strain that someone else gave me. Mm-hmm. I played around with Fat Man poplar and Enoki, golden Enoki, and all three of those were like pretty underwhelming. Like when it works and it's fantastic and people love them. But if I'm trying to maximize like efficiency of the grow room and my incubation room is packed. Like I need every single space. So what I decided was like, okay, orders are coming in. Like we're getting into the summer. I've got I could potentially sell 400 pounds a week right now. Like let's not mess around right now with anything that we don't know will grow 3 pounds.
Yeah.
Like, I want to grow anything that I don't know for sure will produce 3 pounds. At least between its first and second flush.
When you're between its first and second flush?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so if a block produces 3 pounds, by the time I check it out, it did its job. If it 3 pounds to me is like a B plus. It's like you did good. If you 3.5, 4, sometimes 4.5 pounds, that's like a rock star. Let's figure out what we did there. So the enokis, I was never getting more than like half a pound, three-quarters of a pound. Fat Man poplars were like a pound to a pound and a half. Piopinos were like a pound and a half, but I couldn't get a second flush.
What about chestnuts? How are chestnuts treating you?
Chestnuts are doing really good. I'm consistently getting about 3 pounds. Like I'll get like 2.8 to 3.3, like somewhere in there, like every time. And then I have second flushed them in the past, and you almost always get about a pound. But they have to sit there for a month almost. Like in that month, I can grow like 2 oyster blocks.
Yeah.
So like real estate, like I said, my facility is 940 square foot. Like I'm using every inch of that place. So those chestnut blocks sitting there on those shelves for an extra month, like that's not profitable.
That's something like even at the warehouse, like I thought, man, I'm going to be smoking shiitake, right? I'm just going to have it everywhere. And my shelves are already full of oysters, and I still can't keep up with restaurant demand. So that's actually another good question I'd like to ask. Like, obviously, if you're increasing every week, are you selling everything you're growing?
We are. We are just now getting into the like value added space. So we just got our commercial kitchen set up, and we're gonna be making like a whole line of like chips and jerkies and powders and just dehydrated mushrooms. So now like there's no upper limit. Like I just handed off 50 pounds today to my intern, and she'll take them and disappear and return in a week with like, a bunch of product.
Nice.
And that's shelf stable. That's stuff we can ship. So that's like brand new. So now we don't really have an upper limit. There's no such thing as like not selling everything.
Yeah.
We consistently
you're gonna sell it.
We're not selling 300 pounds a week. So I should clarify. Like I give mushrooms to, like the farm family, like the folks who have built my facility with me and like let me run on their land. Like I give them mushrooms every week. I give mushrooms to, friends, or a couple people. I take some home. Sometimes we'll have an off week. So if we do 250 one week, but we only do 170 the next week, like, it'll carry over.
Yeah.
I'd say on average, we're selling about 200 pounds a week right now, but it's still growing. And then, we've got a few options for like when we grow extra. We've got a local hospital that runs a really nice restaurant. I'll just text this guy, hey man, we got 40 pounds of mushrooms. Like, sweet, I'll take them. And he'll just drive by and pick them up. So every 2-3 weeks, like we'll be sitting on some extra mushrooms and we can sell everything to, unload it on him. There's a local nonprofit, like basically like a soup kitchen. And so when we have extra, we'll sell it to them. It's the only situation where I'll sell anything at a discount. Like we just sell them $50 a case. I know it's a nonprofit. I know it's a good home for this.
Yep.
And so they're another option to like unload if we have an extra 30 pounds or something. And then farmers markets, and we run a farm stand every Friday. Like, so I'd say we're consistently sitting in like 180, 200 pounds per week in sales. Okay. And I also overload every box so that, if I record that we grew 300 pounds, all of my cases are actually anywhere from 10 to 11 pounds.
Right.
So I'm overstuffing my boxes. If we sell 100 half-pound quart containers at the farmer's market, if it was exactly a half pound, that'd be 50 pounds of mushrooms. I'm probably stuffing 70 pounds into there.
Right.
So it's like those 20 pounds don't get, that kind of disappears. The extra few pounds, like, so if I grow 300 and I sell everything, I'm going to be like, we sold 250 pounds.
Right.
But nothing went to waste. And I'm fine with that. Like, I'd rather overstuff the boxes. I'd rather overstuff the quart containers at the farmers markets.
Well, it definitely makes you hard to compete with. I mean...
Right. It's like I want to keep adding, like, all these things that I can have the best product, the best quality, like anything that's going to make me stand out when I do, like, if and when competition starts up here in Bozeman.
Yeah, absolutely. So...
And that's why we're growing so fast. That's why I'm like, we got to go. Because, like, there's no one here right now, and I know there will be. So I'm trying to, like, build these like strong relationships with as many restaurants, as many people as I possibly can. Make sure they trust me, make sure I'm reliable, make sure they know my product is like the highest quality they're ever going to get. So then when the next person starts up, they're like, no, that's fine. Like, we already got a guy.
Right.
That's my hope.
Well, and I think that seems like it's bore fruit for me. I mean, that said, like, we're growing more mushrooms and selling more mushrooms than we ever have. And I still have not scratched the surface of Knoxville. Now, I don't know what Bozeman is like compared to Knoxville size-wise. But I feel you because I'm growing as quickly as I can and casting as wide a net as I can. Getting on that, getting that real estate while the getting's good. Which I think the getting's going to be good for a while. In fact, there's a farmer that just started a farm up in Powell, Tennessee, which is in Knoxville, you might as well say. And I mean, he and I have not even crossed paths other than the fact that he's coming down and buying blocks off me pretty occasionally. He bought a Thor bagger off of us and stuff. And I mean, like, no, he's not approached any of my restaurants. As far as I know, I've not approached any of his. And we're just, like, I don't think people realize how big even a small town is. Like, it's like, how big is Bozeman?
I have seen, so there's the nearest town that has mushroom farms is Missoula, which I think is like 2.5 hours away.
Okay.
And there's a pretty big mushroom farm up there, and they sell to a lot of places in Bozeman. Like a lot of times I'll be walking in, or someone's walking cooler to drop off a case, and I'll see like the other guy's mushrooms. But it's always like shiitake. I can't grow shiitake. And like I openly, like I refer people to him all the time. They're like, can you do shiitake? Like, no, like get a hold of the guy in Missoula. Like I forward people to him because I just can't do it. And that's fine. Like they're kind of two different markets in a way.
They really are. Well, I mean, it's like vegetables. Like mushrooms are as diverse as vegetables. People just don't realize it yet. And so that's been kind of my thing, is just like, man, if I could, I would grow comb tooth and like only comb tooth. Well, and bear's head. Because my profit margin on those, even if I sold them at oysters, I make better money. But I sell them at a higher price because demand is lower, so I make even better money on them. So, I sell them for $120 a case, and I'm usually getting about a pound more per block. So they're profitable on both ends. And they're just so easy to grow. Like, you don't even need the same, like, your humidification equipment doesn't even have to be as nice, like,
that used to be my experience. I was like, oh my gosh, lion's mane, so easy to grow. Why is it expensive? And in the last like 2 months, like I lose like a third of my blocks to like that weird drippy,
white death.
What do we call it? The drippy cauliflower effect.
Yep.
And then the lion's mane bags will just fill up with liquid for some reason, like a third of them.
Right.
Like, man.
So that's actually something I've seen a lot of, and Samantha noticed whenever like that it dripped and made a puddle in the floor, and then Samantha came through with the vacuum, vacuumed it up, pressure washed, and then vacuumed again. And where that puddle had been, the floor was completely clean, like more clean than we've ever seen it. And so
I noticed too.
You did notice that too?
That it like cleans the concrete, and I don't know what that means.
I don't either, but Samantha asked me to culture it, so I swabbed it and then swabbed it on plates, and it was a mold. It grew hyphae and then turned moldy. And I've done that over and over and over again. It's not... I almost thought it was bacterial the way it was soupy, but it does seem like it's a mold of some sort.
Interesting.
But I'm trying to make a new floor cleaner. Like I am working. Yeah, it smells kind of beery and soury. What is it? There is a fungus that has it may be. Is it yeast that has no?
We all need to take samples and send them off.
Yes, let's all sample it. Yeah, let me ask you this. So when I first started, I would do what?
I was just saying that's our aim 3. Remember we were trying to figure out our 3 aims for the research project, and we couldn't figure out aim 3.
Yeah,
that's it right there.
I could. Yes, let's do that. So when I first started, man, I was terrified to grow contaminants in my lab. Have you experimented with growing any contamination?
Nope.
No. Are you terrified of it?
I'm like, one, I don't know that it would like change anything. I don't know that it would like inform a whole lot, I don't know that I would be like, oh, okay, cool, that was a mold. Now we know to do this differently. Like, I don't think I'll do anything differently. I don't think I can. And here's my other thought. Like, there are like trillions of bacteria and molds and just microbes everywhere. If you swab your laptop, like, you're gonna grow mold and bacteria and yeast probably. So my thought is like, yeah, that puddle, maybe it actually was a mold that like dripped down, but also maybe it's just one of the trillions of molds that's just in our air and our, bacteria, whatever, and it happens to be there. So if you get a little like metabolite drip on a mushroom and swab it, I believe like it wholeheartedly could be clean, like no microbe coming out of the mushroom, but there's going to be microbes just in the air, in your swab, like you're going to grow something, And so that's why I'm like, it's hard enough to work in perfectly controlled, sterile environments and like grow the thing that you're trying to grow, let alone like an environmental sample. Like, I don't know.
I will say that I've cultured it multiple times, and I have.
And if you're doing the same thing over and over, like that could be pretty telling.
Yeah, it's I'm getting the same thing over and over again. It's never two different things. So as far as environmental swabs go, it's pretty good data, I feel like. But I have been like, so in my lab right now, I've got Neurospora growing on plates. And I'm definitely like, now I'm containing everything. Like I've got it double wrapped and, like I'm definitely being cautious with it, but I'm growing Koji molds and like, everything. And so somebody came to my lab the other day and they were like, what are you doing? I can't believe you're growing like mold on purpose. And I'm like, oh yeah.
Like you do it in front of the flow hood, like open up the plate and it's going to like just blow everywhere in your lab. And it's
you don't do it in the front of the flow hood. Okay. I do it on. I do open air transfers of it on my desk, because of that very thing. I don't want to like. I've got my steel bench which has no flow on it whatsoever. I'll do it right there, and I'll just very quickly open it and then do a needle biopsy and do whatever I need to do with that needle biopsy. But it's you just got to be careful. And like if it's like Neurospora, if it's sporing in the plate, I won't open it.
Yeah.
Like I just won't open it. So
yeah.
But
yeah, you got 8 years under your belt. I'm brand new. I'm not trying to start growing. I don't need to experiment yet.
That's fair.
I'll learn from you. You do the experiments.
Okay, I can dig that. So let me ask you this then: is your farm? Are you in the black?
What does that mean?
Are you profitable yet?
Oh yeah, okay. We are. We were profitable right away.
Okay.
And when I say that, I mean all things considered, by the time we hit that first farmers market and like I'd built the whole facility, I had, whatever, like everything, all the equipment, all the cultures, everything said and done, and propane for the first year and everything. Total upfront investment was $75,000.
Okay.
So the way I think about this is that $75,000 did not exist 2 years ago. I created that $75,000. I worked odd jobs, like I was saying, like crazy. I did all these pitch competitions. I secured grant funding, and I created that money, and then I spent it all. So then we're at $0. Now everything from here is profit as far as I'm, do I need to have $75,000 in the bank before I can say I'm profitable? Or as far as I care, I pay myself, I pay 2 employees, and we're still not in debt. So as far as like my math checks out, like I'd say we're profitable.
Yeah, I would count that as profitable.
Yeah.
I mean, you're on a self-sustaining course and you're actively growing under your own steam. So that pretty loudly says you're profitable.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the $75,000 would be considered investment, right? And then
I couldn't hear you.
She said that $75,000 would be considered investment.
And then as you're running, if you are not running in the negative,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and she said as long as you're not running the negative, then you would be considered profitable.
Yeah. Yeah, and we haven't had to take out any loans, didn't take out any investors, like still debt free, and like I want to keep it that way.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But man, we're not gonna it's not like we're rolling in the dough. Like
No.
it's if you get to where like, oh sweet, we've got like a few $1,000s in the bank account. Let's buy a new whatever. Like immediately everything gets reinvested. Like so we're walking a pretty tight line, but I'm able to make payroll. I'm able to pay utilities. I'm able to pay all the overhead, keep resupplying all the substrates and raw materials, and make a little bit more than we're spending.
Yeah.
I'd say. Yeah.
I mean, that makes sense. I mean, so we're still in the same boat. I mean, like you said, 8 years. And now, I mean, I would really consider my modern business, like this current incarnation of the business, has been around since about 2017. Because we did a lot of things wrong, and then it kept resetting the business, like trying to figure out how do we make this profitable. So we did a lot of unprofitable ways first, but I mean, I'm in the same boat where it's like, okay, we've got some money in the bank. How about we move into a warehouse? Oh, I've got a little bit of money in the bank. Time to invest in a couple new autoclaves or camera equipment.
Yeah.
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 So
yeah, I mean, I guess you're building equity, right?
Yeah.
You're building your assets up. I mean, I don't know.
yeah.
As long as I can pay the bills and I can pay their bills, I'm happy.
Oh, yeah. Well, and so for me, like, it's gotten better every year. And then so the big thing for us in 2020 was we hired Jackie and Tristan. And I mean, you've talked to Jackie, I think, or maybe you've at least heard me talk about it.
We talk about Jackie all the time.
So, yeah, of course I talk about Jackie all the time. Like, he's saved my life. So before I get into this, let me just ask you one simple question. How long was it before your first day off?
It was exactly 6 months.
6 months of working every day.
I went 6 full months without taking a single day off. And then when I did take that day off,
didn't
go well.
Yeah. So I
we don't need to get into it, but I remember overcorrected.
Way overcorrected. Oh, I still don't have that T-shirt yet, man. I need that T-shirt. Oh, I way overcorrected.
Yeah. Michael from Midnight Mushroom Co. is in the business of making SporeAttic T-shirts that say I way overcorrected on.
I'm gonna have to talk to him. I need that T-shirt. I way overcorrected. Because I'll tell you, man, I did the same thing. Like it was. People have been emailing me. Apparently, they've noticed my month off from YouTube.
Yeah, man, what gives?
Do what?
I noticed.
Right?
I said, yeah, man, what gives?
Well, I was taking some time, and that comes down to Jackie. Now, this wasn't my first day off, but like, yeah, man, I was just like, I'm just going to take a week off. And then that week turned into 2, and then that 2 turned into 3, and then 3 turned into 4.5. So, this is my first piece of content done since that taking off of time. Now, I've been playing with cameras, and I've been getting some footage and stuff like that, but like, I mean, Samantha and I took the kids kayaking.
It's not like you laid on a beach for a month and a half.
No, but I did definitely take time off. Like, Samantha and I went and took the kids kayaking last night. We took them kayaking Saturday. We definitely took that time off. But that has been the biggest thing for me is hiring people basically wiped out any of the wealth that I was expecting to collect myself. But it gave me the wealth of I get to take time off now.
Exactly. So like that's unbelievably important is like self-care, like taking care of yourself. Any business owner will probably tell you the same. Like I knew it when I was doing that. Like, I mean, I was working 7 days a week. I believe I'm accurate in saying I was probably consistently working 100 hours a week. I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say that. And I'd sleep on a cot in the like still being built mushroom farm. Like as soon as I had a roof over it, I was like brought in my cot and sleeping bag, and 3-4 nights a week I'd be working till 1-2 a.m. until I couldn't stand up anymore, and I'd crash on the cot and get up and keep going. Go pick a comb tooth off of the block and go grab some eggs out of the walk-in cooler and cook up some breakfast and keep going.
Samantha's got a picture of me from somewhere where I was when we were building out the warehouse, I've got a crash pad, like from my Molly pack from Marine Corps days. That crash pad, just laid it in my office. It just sits there. It's still there. And there's a picture of me totally just, back there with just taking a nap, because we were just, especially like when we started the business, we were like that. And then when we opened that warehouse, it was just every day, living, breathing, eating the mushroom operation. And it was great. But 2020, so the 2018, 2019, I had built-in time off. 2020, when COVID hit and we got that warehouse, like, it completely wiped out any time off.
And you had to lay off your employees too, right?
We did. We did lay off our employees. Not all of them, though. Let's see. Laura stayed with us, and Jason came back for a while, and then had to take some time off because his mother-in-law was she's autoimmune deficient. But now Jason's doing his own thing. He's got a bunch of fish and like aquatic plants and stuff that he's doing and selling. So, but having, now we got Jack, we got Tristan, Melanie does our website. We got a guy named T that comes in, does part-time work for us. And T's one of those kind of guys that like fights, like he's on fire. So like he works like he's, oh my gosh, fighting fire. I can't even say things right now.
He's going. He's going at it.
He's going at it. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, he doesn't stop. So like, even though he's part-time, he gets more done in those part-time hours than I think I've seen anybody ever get done. So we always put him like, hey T, go open bags in the compost pile. Hey T, go do just whatever this big problem is. Make that problem go away. Yeah. So, but
man.
And he kills it.
Good employees. Oh my gosh, it's
Godzilla.
It's everything.
Yeah, man.
We talk about every single time I've talked to you. We talk about how good our employees are.
Well, it's because good employees are gold, man. Yeah, it's the single most important thing in the business. And if you can mom and pop it forever, but if you want any time off, you definitely need to have good employees. So let me get to that. Can I ask you? Well, you said you've got one full timer or two full time?
One full time, and I was just gonna add, like, it's 5 o'clock right now. Like, up until right now, like, they've both been working still. Like, while we've been here doing this podcast, like, SporeAttic is still getting work done. You know, like, that is the coolest thing in the world, and that's why I was okay with doing the 6 months of like, okay, no social life, no fun, no spending any money. Like, I know it's temporary. I have to get this business profitable so I can afford that first employee. Yeah. At first, it was a part-time employee, and he helped me grow. And then it was a full-time, and then it was a full-time and a part-time. Now it's a full-time, part-time, and an intern. And I don't know, maybe we'll add another one soon. Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, go on. I just want to throw that in there. Like, you got to do that grind for a little while so that you can afford the employee, so you can afford to take a day off a week or something.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you that. What was your hiring experience like?
I was really fortunate. My first employee, Dylan Fishman of Foxglove Flower Farm, he runs a flower farm right on the same property as the mushroom farm. Okay. We both lease space from Three Hearts Farm, and his flower farm is not in operation throughout the winter months. So I took him on for, I think, 5 or 6 months. Like, as soon as flower farming was over and like the mushroom farm started, he worked with me clear through April, and that was like, we knew, like, come April, he's out. I need to have someone in by that point. And so the plan was, like, we want to have a 2-week overlap when he's done, and he was a part-time employee. When he's done, I want to bring on the full-time employee, have Dylan train her, and he did, and man, it worked out perfectly. So she would, because I have a way of explaining things, but to have someone else also like weigh in on that and say, right, hey, Ben doesn't know what he's talking about here. Like, this is how you actually need to do this. Like, that's really valuable. So like his whole last week, I was like, I literally just want you to spend the whole week distilling everything you know into Becca.
if we could just mush brains and transfer
all of that, whatever you've learned in the last 5-6 months, and just put that right into her. And it worked really well. But so what I did to So after Dylan, I needed to actually open up and just find a new person. I posted on Indeed. I didn't want to post on Facebook Marketplace because I just figured the quality of, people's intention, probably a little more lazy if you're looking for a job on Facebook.
So having experienced
Indeed.
Oh, I was just going to say, having experienced this firsthand, because I used Indeed at your suggestion, and you're right. The people that are on Indeed are serious. Facebook, there's just no seriousness. They just apply and then no big deal.
Yeah, exactly. And so that was my mentality. Was if you're on Indeed, you made an account, you have a resume, you've at least eliminated a certain threshold, And so I had I think 11 applicants within a week, and Becca, she submitted an application. And 20 minutes later, she just called me. She's like, "Hey, yeah, I applied. Did you get I want to get this job." And I don't know why I liked that. I was I like that you just called me, because I don't know, I lose stuff in emails. I got a lot going on. Corner me and get my attention. That says something about your character. I like that.
I agree. So I've told Jack this because Jack came to me and he's like, "Hey, boss, somebody's asking about their order, and I looked it up, and it is late, and I'm so sorry to be bothering you." And I was like, "Jack, no, your job is to pester me into doing my job." Yeah.
Make me do my job.
Make me do my job.
Exactly. No, so it was a really cool experience. I'm glad I went through this, but it was daunting at first. But my job posting on Indeed was 5 pages long. And it was, I literally, I ripped off a lot of the things that you've said. I'm looking to build a team of mercenaries. I want people who are hungry. I want you to be hungry for more hours, more pay. I want you to want to grow this company. I want you to help me make more money so I can help you make more money. Verbatim, I said all of that in there. And then I wrote in there, everything I possibly could to make you not want this job. I talked about how terrible the job is. It's going to be so brutally hard. It's manual labor all day, every day. You will be on your feet the entire time. You will consistently lift 50-pound bags of substrate. It is not easy. This is farm work. And we will be cleaning and cleaning and cleaning. And I said everything I could to scare you away from this position. And one of the best part of the whole job posting was if you are thinking about applying for this because you are fascinated with the world of mycology, don't apply.
Right.
That does not, or I didn't say don't apply. I said that does not make you any more qualified for this position. Quite frankly, I don't care if you know anything about mushrooms.
No.
That doesn't matter. And because everyone messages you and they're oh, I'm just so fascinated with mushrooms. Cool, man. That's going to be gone in a month. That
right.
You won't be. You won't be.
You won't be.
I wrote on there, if you're fascinated with mushrooms and in love with the Instagram side of mushroom farming, you will hate, that means nothing to me. Don't apply.
It's a lot of work, yeah.
Becca was I'm all nervous. I don't even know anything about mushroom farming. I was perfect. Love it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, this is actually something, so I think I had actually told you this before, but when I worked at the fish hatchery, I was like, "Hey, I had some biology experience, but not much. Why did you hire me to work at a fish hatchery?" And he's like, "Actually, it was your factory experience that we wanted." Yeah. And I was like, "Really?" And he's like, "We learned long ago that we didn't really want to hire biologists or people fascinated with fish. We wanted to hire someone who wanted to come in for a paycheck, do their work, do it well, and go home."
Yep. Exactly. They're hiring based on your work ethic.
Yep. And that has done well.
Experience.
Yeah. And I've done the same thing. And I remember, so it is actually funny because, I'm hiring right now. And I actually came to you and I asked you because you had been so successful at hiring people. And I was like, which is funny because you had asked me and you spit my own advice back in my face, which was good. It was refreshing.
I literally said exactly what you said, Andrew.
Yeah. Well, I was sitting there. I remember I was just going off about how frustrated I was. It was 2020 and COVID-19. Everybody's used COVID in 2020 to just coast, and it's making me mad. I feel like they're letting their standards slip, and you're like, put that in your ad. And man, it's worked wonders. Like, we had a chick come in, and unfortunately, we were going to hire her. That's the fortunate part. The unfortunate part was we were going to hire her, but she was moving down here, and her house fell through. And so we ended up not being able to get her. But she even wrote in her response to us, she was like, your description had me, like, yelling yes and, like, laughing the whole time, and I just love it. And I was like, because Samantha, I definitely wrote it, and Samantha's like, nobody's going to want to apply after you wrote this. And so I softened it up just a little. But then...
We had, like, 60 applicants. It's been insane.
Yeah. And I'm being real picky, man. Like, to me, like, Jack and Tristan are overwhelmed, and I feel bad for them, but I am trying to go slow. I don't want to hire someone that I'm going to have to fire within a year. Like, I want that long-term person.
So there's a few more things I would want to say. Like, when I hired, I wrote it in the application, and, like, I hammered this down when I met with Becca for her interview, was like, I am not interested in someone who's going to work for me for 6 months. I'm not interested in you if you're going to work for me for a year. I want someone who's going to grow with this company. If you help me grow and make lots of money, your paycheck will consistently grow with this company. Like, this is your starting salary. This is guaranteed to change based on how much you help this company grow. I think it's reasonable to well, I'm not going to throw out any numbers, but
good. Don't give my guys any ideas now. Come on.
Yeah, because Becca's going to watch this and be like, oh, Ben, you said what about salary?
Right? See, that's another thing about owning a business, man. You start learning to not lock yourself into stuff.
It also makes desperate.
What was the other thing? I did a few more things. I had taken videos of, like, the 3 main things that we do. It was like dry packing bags, wet packing bags, and inoculating and mixing substrate bags. It was like, this is going to be the vast majority of what you do. So I took, like, 5-minute video of each, just inoculate, like, mix, inoculate, mix. And I said, watch the whole video. Don't just turn it on. Okay, I got it. No. Sit there and watch the whole video. You're writing that down? That's a good one, right? This is what you will be doing. So watch it. And if you feel like that was boring, that doesn't appeal to me, I don't like that, like, that's fine. Don't take this job, because that will be the vast majority of what you do. So when she called me back, she's like, all right, I watched the videos, still want it. And I was like, all right, it's yours.
So that was actually something we wrote into, which or rather, we didn't do that exactly, which is why I was writing that down, because I want to remember that. And unfortunately, after these live streams, I'm usually, like, just dead in the brain, and I won't remember it. But
it's almost like we're recording it or something.
Yeah, but then I have to go back and watch the whole thing. And I have a really hard time watching my own content. All I see is how fat I am, or how obnoxious my voice is.
Look at how I did this wrong.
That's right. Yeah. But we actually wrote in there, like, there are bugs, slimes, smells, sludges. If you are easily grossed out, don't apply for this job, is what I said. And I remember that, like, Jackie had been working there for about a week. And I have learned, I've been watching people after hiring multiple people over the years now, that, this, like, reaching up for a block, you don't want to have your mouth open, right? Like, I literally saw one of those bags pour metabolites just straight into Jackie's mouth one time, and it was just like, oh, gosh. Oh, man, you got mushroom pee in your mouth.
How did it taste? Did he tell you? I've always been curious.
I think he was so grossed out by the idea that I don't even know if he ever even talked about how it tasted. But, I mean, I've tasted it before. It's just kind of watery. It doesn't really taste like much of anything. So, okay. I've also drank straight liquid culture before just to see what that's like. That's miserable. Don't do that.
Oh, really? I thought it would be like sugar water.
Well, I mean, so yeah, before the mushrooms eat it, but if you do liquid culture, like what I'm talking about, all those little bits of fungus, they just stick to the back of your throat, man. They don't go down. It's gross.
They start growing in your throat.
Yeah, right. Don't, curiosity killed the cat. Don't drink fungus.
Okay, what else was I gonna say? I feel like I had one more thing on the hiring.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. I feel like I'm holding on to one more thing. Yeah, I don't think this was it, but yeah, basically just I did everything I could possibly do to scare Becca away from this position. Like our interview was like an hour long of me talking about how bad this job's gonna be.
Which is
And
funny
she
because
was
it's
like,
actually not a bad job. It's actually
Right.
actually the
It's
best
not
job
that
I've ever
bad,
had.
but I want to make sure you know what you're getting into. I don't want to make it look like what you see on Instagram.
Right.
I don't want you to think like, this is pretty, like I'm gonna go in and pick mushrooms and like it's just me like all of a sudden I'm at the farmer's market selling mushrooms. Like no.
Right.
Think of how much work is gonna go into prepping like 100 quart containers of a half pounds of mushroom. Like there's a lot there. It's stressful. It's a lot. You're on your feet constantly. There's a lot of weird things. Like it's a weird job. Today we had Svetlana, my part-time employee. She loaded the steam sterilizer, and it was like the bags were right to the top. So I was like, oh, that's not gonna work. It's gonna push the lid open. And so we like had her like she was stomping grapes. She's like on top of the steam sterilizer, like packing the bags in. I'm like, this is what mushroom farming looks like. This is a perfect example of like the weirdness of like what you do on a mushroom farm.
Well, it's all less than ideal. Like nobody has the ideals.
The steamer was not on, to clarify for
Right.
anyone who's watching. The steamer was not on when she did.
By the way, have you ever sat in the steamer and turned it on? Because I have, and it's not that bad. It's like a sauna.
No, dude. Mine has the element in the bottom.
Oh, no. No, mine, we pipe ours in. Yeah. In fact, so what we're talking about doing right now is, so I think you've seen my back dock, but anyways, we're not going to get sued.
Don't tell people to sit in their steamers.
Don't sit in your steamers, people. I sit in my steamer. You're not. Don't you sit in your steamer. So, what we're talking about doing is we've got our trough on the back dock, right? So the boiler's inside. The boiler pipes the steam out to the back dock.
Right.
And so what I'm talking about doing now is just having like a little offshoot that comes off that steamer and just a little room.
Yeah.
So now, yeah,
that's what these things are. They're sauna steamers.
Exactly.
Usually,
right.
Yeah. We've come full circle.
And so I'm thinking, like, when wintertime comes, I might just go there, grab my cup of coffee, go sit in the mushroom sauna, and just get that night, and then I might have an ice bath just sitting outside, and then I might ice bath and sauna back and forth.
They're actually building a sauna on the farm where I'm at. Like they're building a sauna.
Who wouldn't, man? Yes. So what's funny is Samantha and Ben will probably live in it because they're both lizard people who don't generate their own heat. But I'll live in the ice bath and they can live in the the sauna, and I'll go visit. But it's I want both of those things. So I do have a soaking tub where I go soak in ice water and stuff, but I want a sauna really badly, or a hot tub. I'll take either one.
Ooh, I don't know. I don't care for hot tubs. I like saunas though. The sauna.
I like hot tubs in the wintertime. Not really, so much in the summer, but I'll take a sauna in the summer either way.
Hey, I think real quick, I'm gonna run and use the restroom. Did you want to take a quick glance to see if there's any questions?
Yeah, let me see
chat?
if there's. I don't know if there's any. I've seen people, or you go ahead. I'll take care of it. Oh my goodness, you guys have been busy commenting while I've been not looking. Hey Dan, why are you not on Discord, Dan? I miss your Scottish face. If you don't get your Scottish face back on that Discord, and soon, you and I are going to have problems. Wait, what? We both sell to one restaurant that I had for a year, or do you still sell to them? For people reading, we literally got to the restaurant at the same time to drop off mushrooms. And Andrew over here talking about not even rubbing elbows with other mushroom growers. It's fine, the market's huge. I actually push people away from buying mushrooms right now. Wait, Lakeside, you and I? Oh, he'll stop rocking now that he's feet. Lakeside, are you and I, or are you talking about you and Ben have rubbed elbows? Andrew told me to sit in my steamer. I did not, Michael Earthshipman. I told you not to sit in it. I told you not to. I said I do, but you can't. Samantha set the rule. You can't do that. Hey, Shaka, what's up? I can't imagine sitting on the wraparound porch with actual rocking chairs, Southern style, with Ben. I know, right? He's too fast. He's like just going crazy.
It's even greater
I'm trying to be pretty tame on camera. Like
I know, but
we're not. You know, like on the Discord, I'm just like going a million miles an hour.
I know, man. But like normal Ben is like an Adderall-fed Chihuahua. Sometimes, like you're just so full of energy, like it kills me.
That's actually kind of a cool transition into like why I think mushroom farming just works for me. Is like I tried to do academia for so long, and like I'm gonna sit still for like 10 hours straight at my computer and like code or do something, like one thing, and like my brain is 19 other places. And so in mushroom farming, like you're moving around all the time. You're like just like walk in the front doors with no plan and just like let your ADHD like take you all over the mushroom farm, and like by the time 5 o'clock hits, you've done everything. It's great.
That's kind of the way I am. It drives Samantha crazy because we have a really hard time. She's hyper focused, and I'm definitely ADHD, right? Like bouncing and going,
it just worked for mushroom farming for whatever reason.
I think you're right.
I think so. That's been my experience. Like I couldn't think of a better. Like I truly can't think of a better job for like my ADHD brain to just like scatter all over the place and that be like good. Like it's a good thing. I put that in the job description too. I wrote about how ADHD I am and how it's going to be your job to keep up with my ADHD brain and like also try to keep me on track.
Yeah, I've told Jack and Tristan their job really is just basically Andrew comes into work, Andrew leaves a huge wake of a mess and is behind him, right? And like your job is to go and pick up all the pieces and make sure the farm still runs. Like just I don't even want to be sometimes the face of the farm. I really just want to exist outside the hierarchy where I get to come in and play and make a mess. And then everyone else just picks up after me. Like, that would be ideal. Samantha makes me be an adult sometimes, though.
Becca makes me be an adult, actually. She'll be like, hey, don't you have, like, all these things you have to go do? And I'm like, oh, crap. Yeah, I do. I gotta go.
Yeah, that's Jack and Samantha for me. Like, they're my stabilizing forces at the moment. So, Ben makes sure, like, all the machines stay running, but Ben and I both have talked about how, like Ben Erickson, that we both have talked about how we're trying to work ourselves out of jobs so that the business will be better off. Like, because the business will be better off if it's not dependent on me doing the day-to-day.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, since I have trained Jack and gotten Jack trained on online fulfillment of orders, we are flying with orders out the door now. Whereas with me, I was so overwhelmed by everything, shit was falling through the cracks all the time. So.
Oh, I remember. I remember when you were ordering.
Yeah, I bet you do. Mr. Christmas tree still up. I see you there.
But a few weeks, man. Oh crap.
I do apologize to everyone for my awfulness, but Jackie's there to make it up now. Oh man! So
were there any questions in the chat?
I didn't get the chance to look too hard. Somebody named Lakeside was saying, Lakeside Mushrooms said something about selling to the same restaurant as somebody. So me and Ben, cool, haha, probably not. I did get his fire going at one time, but that's no for just live. Oh no, my filters are coming in this week. I wish him the best with Man of War. Oh, okay, he's talking about Ben Erickson. Gotcha. I thought he was talking about you.
Michael Earthship said what some call disabilities, others call superpower, and I say that on a daily basis. Like when people all the time talk about their ADHD or like a a good spectrum of like different,
Hey,
quote unquote disorders.
is that your daddy in the chat?
What?
Is that your daddy in the chat? Is your dad's name Dane?
Oh, Dad. Dad says, amazingly proud of you, son.
Dude, that's the sweetest stuff I've ever heard. Hello, Dane. It's very nice to meet you. Ben is a
Thanks,
wonderful
Dad.
human being and one of my favorite people to talk to. You did well raising him.
Also, he said you rocked in the crib.
Rocking the what? Did you? So Ben, did you hear what Samantha said?
No, I didn't.
She said that Dane said that he rocked in the crib when he was a baby.
That's true. Yeah, when I was up until I went away to college, and then I realized, like, I'm going to be sleeping in a dorm with 3 other guys that I don't know. I can't do this anymore. It's very socially weird. But up until I was, 18, 19, and I went away to college, lay down for bed, and I just rock myself until all of a sudden I'm asleep. It just has been part of me my whole life. I cannot stop moving.
So, I'm the same way, and this may tell you something about yourself as well, but Samantha and I and the kids thought it was interesting because I heard something about Asperger's, and I was like, wait a minute, that sounds like me. So we went online and looked up all the signs and symptoms in the online test for Asperger's, which is apparently not a diagnosis anymore. It's now just mild autism, but I was 15 symptoms out of 15. So that explains a lot about me.
Well, it's arbitrary and
right.
I took an abnormal psychology class just for fun, my last semester of undergrad, just because I wanted to. And you just go every day you talk about a new disorder, quote unquote disorder. And what I would do is in the back of my notebook, I would write down all the disorders that I thought maybe I resonated with. And by the end of the semester, there were there was a list of 12 of them. I was okay, a little bit of bipolar, a little bit of ADHD, maybe a little schizophrenia, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it's this weird spectrum. I don't think you either have the disorder or you don't. It's we've all got a weird gray.
There's a reason why it's called a spectrum.
Yeah, we're all mutts of our genetics and whatever our lifestyle led us to do.
So what really led me to it was somebody was talking.
Just came on SNL and told the world he has Asperger's. Exactly.
So I think that's actually what started it, was because Elon Musk said that, and then I was watching The Flagrancy with Andrew Schultz and his podcast, and he was talking about how he really wishes all these people with Asperger's would stop acting like they have some sort of disorder. He's like, all the most powerful people in the world have Asperger's. It's a freaking superpower. Shut up about it. Nobody feels bad for you.
I don't know anything about Asperger's, but that's how I feel about ADHD. If you're trying to put yourself in an environment where like me in grad school, trying to code, trying to learn statistics and coding, even me trying to read a book, you convince yourself that you are incapable or you're inferior, you're weak, you're dysfunctional.
Right.
And then you find yourself in an environment where you can use that to your advantage, and you're holy crap, I'm actually this is a superpower. This is not a weakness. I'm glad I am this way. But if you put yourself in an environment where it's not conducive to using your quote unquote disorder, it's gonna beat you up. It's gonna make you inferior. It's gonna hurt you, and it's gonna hurt your self-esteem.
Oh yeah.
I have a fellow entrepreneur buddy here in Bozeman who, at the age of 30, was just diagnosed with what's it called? Not autism. What is it?
It doesn't matter. He was diagnosed with something.
Yeah, whatever. It was some mental disorder, and he was talking about it, and I was like, good. Use it.
Yeah.
Superpower. And he's like, it is a superpower. I could tell you're a weirdo, just talking to you.
Right.
I know there's something off about you. Cool, you're running a business that's pulling in $500,000 a year.
Well,
Okay,
and what's funny, man, is the amount...
Now that a professional has diagnosed you with this disorder, is that going to change anything? No. Sweet. Cool.
Right. Well, and
use it.
that's exactly. So basically every business guy I know has like ADHD or dyslexia, and it's like, so Brody, my second son, my middle kid, is he was diagnosed with dyslexia, and he was getting real bummed out about it. Like kind of like you said, like he was feeling just bad about himself because he had a hard time reading. And now that he's been like we've worked with some specialists, and he just got a lot of practice in. And now, like, he doesn't require any help whatsoever. He's actually at an advanced reading level, but he just had to figure out some workarounds. But I remember showing him, like, Richard Branson, who has dyslexia, and pretty much is the epitome of ADHD. And it's like, dude, that's one of the richest people in the world and most successful people in the world. I started the Virgin Group and, like, has just done a lot of cool things in the life, like... I was like, Brody, you don't have to be worried about it. And he was like, he has dyslexia? And I was like, yeah. And it was video showing him like riding around on his super yacht and riding around on his like private plane. And Brody's like, he's got dyslexia, huh? And I was like, yeah, dude, it's nothing, like, it doesn't mean a thing except that you need to work on this specific skill. That's all it means.
Yeah. No, it's exactly right. Like, if you put yourself in a situation where your dyslexia is going to harm you, like if you need to read a journal article every day and like you just can't freaking read, like it's going to mess with you. You're going to beat yourself up. You're going to feel really down about yourself.
For sure.
So go do something different. Yep. Go do something that works.
I like that. That's a good distillation. Don't put yourself at a disadvantage. Done.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this then, changing subjects some.
Yeah, okay.
Since this is a mushroom channel after all.
Yeah, I was going to go like deeper into it, but we should probably get that mushroom part.
We can do that privately later. There's a couple of things I want to ask, and they're both very similar to each other. So I'm going to ask you the two questions, and you tell me how you want to wrap it up. But basically, have there been any large hurdles that you've really had to like stuff that just stopped you in your tracks that you had a really hard time overcoming? And B, have you had any trouble with supply chain issues in the mushroom world?
I'll answer the supply chain thing first.
Okay.
No, I haven't. And that's because consistently I have been ordering everything like way ahead of when I need it. You guys on the Discord were like, oh, there's a shortage of unicorn bags. And I'm like, oh, I don't need unicorn bags for 2 months. But real quick, let me spend $2,000 on unicorn bags right now. And then a month later, they showed up. And I was like, cool. Had I needed them that week, I would have been screwed. But I was just like, okay, I don't need them yet. Let me get them. And so things like that. And I've been doing that with my substrate too. I always call the local like co-op that I get all of my soy hulls and my fuel pellets from. Yeah. I'll call them like 3 weeks before I need it. Like, hey, you got it though? Like, you have it ready to go? I don't need it yet. I'm just checking. He's like, yep, we got it. It's sitting right here. Sweet. I'm going to get a hold of you when I need it. And then I'll make the order. It'll get delivered. And I'm like, hey, get the next one in the warehouse. Like, get the next one ready. Yeah. And then I'll get in touch with you in a month and a half, 2 months or whatever. So I'm just like staying way ahead of it. I have noticed every single shipment of my raw materials has been about $75 more expensive. It was like I could get a ton of each for like $750 when I started or less. It was like I was getting like 4,000 pounds of raw materials for like $700. And now it's close to like $1,000. And I'm like, okay, that's just like COVID. You just bite the bullet on that, like whatever. There's nothing you can do about it.
Well, that's kind of the nice thing about mushrooms, man. Our margins are so high, you can just bite the bullet on it for a while.
Yeah. Like that's by no means the biggest expense.
Yeah, labor is my single biggest expense.
100%.
Yeah.
And so, what was the other question? Have I had anything?
Have you had any big hurdles? Yeah, stop you in your tracks. And let me just add to that. If you have had anything, and it's okay if you haven't, what was your solutions to those?
I know my dad's watching this. He knows what I'm going to say.
Oh, no.
So, I took 6 months of just nonstop, like 0 days off.
Right.
And it wasn't like the year prior to that was any less intense. It was like, it's just been laser focus on this business and like getting out of grad school and like making sure this thing works. With that, I failed to be a good partner to my significant other at the time. I just wasn't good to her. I wasn't present enough for her, and she left me. Rightfully so. Like, it was the right move. Like, yeah, 100% was. That messed me up.
Oh, I believe it.
We were together for 5 years, and, that really, I mean, quite literally put me on the floor for, like, a pretty significant amount of time. The unfortunate part of that is, like, it was, like, the first week that the mushroom farm, like, after we launched, it was, like, she waited, like, 10 days, like, the business was running, and then I was on top of the world, like, everything's working, and that happened, and it set me back. And at first I was running the mushroom farm by myself. There's no option of not showing up every day, harvesting, inoculating, moving bags to incubation, moving incubation bags to grow. I'm like, you have to do this every day, or this thing fails. This thing, like, you lost this part of your life. You lost it. Don't lose it for nothing. Like, you lose that and you lose this, like, you're a loser. Like, you need to at least make sure it was worth it. And that has been, like, I don't think that was the answer you were looking for necessarily, but, like, that's the honest truth.
No, I wasn't looking, I wasn't trying to get you to give me an answer. I just wanted an answer.
Right.
So, and whatever your honest answer is. So, like, I get that. That's heartbreaking, man. Was it? You say it was because of the mushroom business, or do you think it was the schooling first, or?
I just didn't do a great job. Like, the mushroom farm and school, finishing up school, were up here, and she wasn't. Like,
so you're saying, I guess,
I just took it for granted, and I just didn't do a great job of making her as important as other aspects of my life. Like, that's just the hard truth.
So what you're saying is you had basically a priority cascade.
Exactly. But the thing is, I mean, I used every second of every day for like a year and a half to get this business to launch. I mean, I'm not joking. Like, I lost all of my, like, I stopped hanging out with friends. I started spending $0 every day. Like, I mean, I spent all of my life to make sure this business launched successfully. And I truly believe, like, I don't think it would have worked had I not done that. The only other option would have been to take out a loan. Take out a big loan, and then I can be a little more, like, I can have a little bit more of a social life. I can be a little bit more present, I guess. Like, I don't know that would have worked.
Well, no, I mean, I get what you're saying. Like, it was interesting because when we started the mushroom business, we were homeschooling the kids. Samantha was working a full-time job, sometimes like 60, 80 hours a week, helping to support my habit while we got this, my mushroom habit. Yeah. And until we got everything, like, squared away to where it could take care of itself, we, and a buddy of ours moved in with us because he had just had a divorce. And that's, I don't know why, but that's like everyone that we know, whoever, like, has a trauma in their life, they come stay with us for a while. But he came and stayed with us. And
he's pretty loud for you guys, his character, though.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, I like to think that it means something like that, like that. We're pretty healing people to be around. But he came in and he was like, he took one look around. And he's like, Samantha's overworked. You need to do something about it. And I was like, what? And then basically I realized, like, I had not even realized how just stressed out and, like, you could wring the stress out of Samantha. Like, and I was completely oblivious to it until he had just pointed it out. And so it was like, okay. And so we talked about it. We all had a meeting, and it was like, okay, as even though I actually like homeschooling better, Samantha was having a hard time with it. Samantha was having a hard time doing, because she was in charge of it and she was helping with the business. And she had just quit her full-time job, but that made money an issue, like making sure that the business was a thing. And so it was just too much. So we made the decision to put the kids in public school, which was something I'm not like now it was the right move. Like looking at it back then, I was resistant to it because I really did not want to put my kids into public school. Now I don't really have a problem with it. They've continued to become capable people. We continue to have a really good home culture. That's really what I was worried about, was that they were going to go to school and it was going to disrupt the home culture that we had built. But just a weird tick of mine, I guess. But in fact, homeschool, they went into the public school and they tested at grades advanced for their levels. But putting them in school immediately dropped Samantha's stress level. Like, you could just feel, like, the lowered amount of stress. And, man, I'm glad that happened, because it was one of those things where, kind of like what you're talking about, like, you were so focused on building this legacy, stuff, like, it's kind of hard to realize that your day-to-day is slipping away from you.
Yep.
So.
Yeah.
But
it's weird what you suddenly, like, learn to accept as normal.
Right. Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why you and I talked about self-care. Self-care is the single most important thing, and I see mushroom farmers time and time again get into it, and just like you said, you can push it for 6 months, but at the end of that 6 months, you've got a day off. You've got some time coming. And I know, talking to you, like, for me, it had been years since I had a day off when I first started the business, and like, I literally never took a day off. It was Mother's Day, and I would still be taking phone calls. I would take phone calls at night. I would be taking Facebook messages and selling plates by Facebook message, and just, like, always on. And that just drains you, man. It just, like, you can do it until you hit the brick wall, and then you never know when that brick wall is going to be. Now, you and I have talked about this, so I kind of know this already, but when I took that day off for my self-care, let's take a day off. That's awful. It's awful.
The worst.
Yes.
Oh, it sucks.
You're doing that. Like, that right there, it's exactly it. Like, you're just like, I should be doing something. No, I'm supposed to be doing nothing. No, I should be doing something. Hey, how's the business doing? Andrew, leave me alone and let me work. Okay. Like, but it took me like 2 or 3 days of that antsiness to just start wearing off, to where I'm like, oh my gosh, I can finally relax for a second. I likened it to you, like how when people tell me their dog is their baby, I'm like, shut up, right? But you tell me your business is your baby, I completely understand. Like, if you've had a business, you know what it's like to have a baby, largely. Not entirely, but you have the sleepless nights and the constant needs and a constant need for attention, so... Yeah, we talked about that just the other day, and I love the analogy of, like, I'll call Becca, hey, just calling to check in, how things are going. Yep. How's the baby?
How's the baby? What's the humidity looking like? How's the incubation room
right?
doing? What's the temperature okay?
Right. Like, that's exactly what it's like, man. Oh. So basically, when I asked you about the hurdles that you've hit, stuff that's hit you in the tracks, we just went right back to self-care. That is interesting, Ben. That is your biggest problem.
It really is. And, like, oh man, everyone preaches it. I've known it since the beginning. Everyone in my life, all of my friends, family, other business owners, you guys, like, everyone preaches it as the most important aspect of running a business is self-care. Yep. I mean, in life, actually, not just running a business, but, like, just in general, like, you've got to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Oh man, I accidentally forgot about self-care for a while there.
Well, you don't even realize it sometimes. It just sneaks up on you.
Absolutely. That's what I was saying. Like, it's crazy what you suddenly accept as normal. Like, You're working till midnight on Christmas. Seems about right.
Yeah, right. That's normal.
And you just do it, and like thinking about it, like in this conversation, you're like, yeah, that's screwed up. that's sick. That's a sickening thing. But when you're doing it, you know you have to do it. I literally can't walk away. These mushrooms will be crap
Dude,
tomorrow.
it took me forever.
I can't sell me.
It took me forever to realize, okay, so Friday's a delivery day. So Friday, if I want a weekend off, I go in Friday and I strip everything except for pins. If it is pins, they can stay, but everything else gets sold. And I completely strip the grow room. And that way I get about 2 to 3 days before those pins are ready to be picked. And that gives me like a 2 or 3 days off, that I get to finally take. I don't know why it took me so long to figure that out, but it took me forever to figure that out.
You and I just talked about this maybe like 3-4 days ago, and I think that was the first time I heard of that. Like if you want to go on vacation doing that, like strip everything, now you've got 3-4 days before you've got to harvest. But even then, like, I don't know, I'm so consistent on like we put bags in Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and we harvest every day, and my hope is to like have it start to like normalize to where it's like you're harvesting the same amount every day roughly. And then that way we can plan out our orders accordingly. So it's like we're always selling fresh mushrooms.
Right.
And something like that where you go in and strip it clean, like I feel like it just like throws the equilibrium off.
It does, and then you have to come back in and you have to work the system, and then the system will stabilize. Now, the good news is within 6 months you already had employees, so it's really not as big of a problem for you as what it was for me, because we mom and popped it for a long time before we hired people.
And I had, like I said, I took that first day off, and then like without even thinking about it, I went right back into, I did like 3 more weeks without a day off. It was like 20 days or so, and Becca was like, Ben, you need to take Sunday off. Like, I will come in on Sunday, you don't come in. Like, she like put her foot down, and I was like, I remember at first she asked me earlier in the day, and I was like, yeah, I'll think about it. And like went back to work. Like, yeah, okay, like we'll talk. And I was like uncomfortable with it still, I was like, I don't know. And then later she was like, no, you can't work 7 days a week. Like, that's not okay. And so she comes in on Sundays, and like, oh my gosh, that's the best. It's like, it has changed my life. I've started to be able to learn how to have a life now. Like, I hang out with friends now. Like, isn't that crazy?
That's crazy. I know, right? Like, people don't realize what a wonderful luxury that is until they don't have it anymore.
Like, I can go do stuff on Saturday nights. Like, Saturday night can be a 3 a.m. night now. Like,
that's right. Yeah.
I don't gotta go to work tomorrow.
Oh gosh, you must be in your 20s to have a 3 a.m. Saturday night. Oh man, I don't have those anymore, man. I fell asleep on the couch and then came to bed at like 2 in the morning, and Samantha was like, coming to bed at 2, huh? Like, that's been a while since you've done that. And I'm like, no, I was just asleep on the couch.
I was just working the whole time.
That's right. Yep. Oh, man. Okay, so well, how about, because we've been going for about an hour and 45 minutes. So what do you think about issues facing the industry? Like, where's the industry going? What are we doing? Like, do you have any ideas about any of that stuff? I mean, obviously, you're planning for the long haul, so you don't think the industry is going to bottom out and die. So what are your thoughts on this stuff?
Well, I don't know. I don't know. Like, yes, I'm planning for the long haul. I hope that I can do this for a long time, and I hope it works really well. But I wouldn't be surprised if 5 to 10 years from now, the industry has changed so much that, like, I can't keep going. I've got to pivot and go start the next business, and who knows what that'll be. And I'm open to that. I have no idea what the future looks like. But we talk about this in the Discord a lot. Like, I think prior to you, like, I would attribute it to you more than anyone else. I don't think this information was out there. Like, you kind of single-handedly open-sourced mushroom farming information to the world via YouTube.
I appreciate that. I would definitely credit some others, but
there's books like crazy. But for a lot of us who like don't have the attention span for that, like, yes, there's a lot of other information on YouTube, but they all hold back. Like,
Gotcha.
you know they do. You know they all go, I'll tell you this much, but the rest of that's proprietary. And you just kind of came in and shook things up and said, "Nah, I spent 7 years figuring this out. I'm gonna share this with the world because I want to see a paradigm shift. I want to see this completely change." And that's completely why I'm doing this. Like, the only reason I'm able to do this is because of your information, open source information. Thank you for that. I mean that, like, from the bottom of my heart. This isn't the first time I've said this to you.
Right.
I bring this up often that scares me because now everyone can do it. And I know you're not scared, or you in the past have expressed that you're not scared of the industry becoming saturated. I totally think it will be in about Ben, 3 to 5 years.
I want to make sure you know that it's not that I'm not concerned that it won't be saturated. It's that I think that we have plenty of time, and the early movers, like what we're doing right now, people who are getting into it, like I'm building into the warehouse, your business is expanding, you're testing chestnuts and other things like that. Like, when other people start showing up in Bozeman selling oysters left and right and the price is going down on those, then you're growing chestnuts and selling them for $120 a box, or you're growing comb tooth, or maybe you've gotten into a warehouse and you're doing shiitake, or who knows, like you said, maybe your knowledge of growing things on a microbiological scale, maybe that shifts into a different business model. Maybe you go somewhere else into some sort of plant culture, fish culture, shrimp culture, who knows what you do, but you have the idea, like you understand biological production methods. And that's,
exactly.
And that's
now suddenly know how to run a business.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And that's my point, is that it's not that I think that it won't ever saturate, it's that I think I'm not worried about saturation because you're learning skills that are applicable elsewhere. And
you're not worried about going hungry.
Right. That's right. I'm not worried about going hungry.
So to go back to your question about where I think the industry is going, I have already had one-on-one conversations with multiple people who are coming from a background of like some significant money, who want to come in and shake up the industry. We'll see how that pans out with those particular people. But what I foresee happening is it's someone with a ton of money is going to come in and they're going to franchise, and they're going to what's the word? I'm drawing a blank, but they're going to create a way for anyone to start up their own mushroom farm with no prior knowledge. It's going to be the Burger King of mushroom farms. You're going to be able to buy a package, shipping container stocked with, X amount of materials. If you buy this package, you can produce 200 pounds a week. If you buy this package, 350. If you buy this package, 1,000. And you can set it up anywhere. It doesn't matter if you're in Alaska. It doesn't matter if you're in Florida. You can set it up anywhere in the world. We're going to take 10%, 20% of whatever your profits are. And it's going to there's going to be a mushroom farm in every town. I think that's going to happen. I also think, there's going to be I don't know how much I want to get into this because I kind of want to be part of it.
I understand.
I think there's going to be a shift towards integrating mushroom farming with traditional agricultural practices and utilizing waste products from each industry to feed the other industry and totally closing the loop.
Okay, Ben. So you're
I don't know.
No, I get it. So here's the thing. I didn't know this was a term, but I started going, if I could be anything, I think I would be what I would call an industrial ecologist. And then lo and behold, that's apparently actually already a thing. But so I think I've talked to you about this, but in the warehouse, we are starting one of the grow rooms. We're doing aquaponics. And one of my boys has been obsessed with bugs since he was little. So he's doing mealworms, superworms, black soldier fly larvae, and stuff like that. And we're testing growing cordyceps on the mealworms and superworms. And then we're feeding them nothing but spit blocks, and they are flourishing like crazy. And then the worms are getting fed to our ducks and our fish, and then all the plant products that we're growing are going into that as well. And then we're growing those as I'm hoping to grow algae and duckweed and stuff as potential supplemental feedstocks for the plants. And so I'm already there with you, man, and I'm already working on it. And that's actually part of why I've had time off, is because I am building out all the plans for how we're going to execute all these things going forward. So I feel you.
Yeah, no, I see your stuff. You're always playing with like the ducks and the fish and all this stuff. And I think a lot of it looks from the outside like, oh, Andrew's just really like ADD and he has to do a million projects. I'm sitting over here like, no, he's diversifying his income stream. He's like ready. He's becoming more independent of this particular one product when the time comes. He's got 19 other projects ready to go, or to some capacity. It's like you sell mushrooms, but then you also sell compost, and then you turn your compost and you're selling worms because you got a worm farm now with your compost. And like whatever ways you can diversify, it's just going to be added security and safety.
Well, and that's something that we've talked about for a long time. And I'm actually glad that you brought that up because, and like you said that you want to be a part of it. The future I see is not mega oyster mushroom farms. I just don't see that being a very viable solution. What I see instead are multiple diversified farms that are using the oyster mushroom waste to feed, to grow their plants on. And then like maybe they're not going to do the same industrial setup like I'm doing, because I'm going to do it all indoors as much as possible. Maybe they're going to do it more like they'll have an indoor mushroom grow room, and then they will literally just take that compost out and throw it out into their garden, and then their plants go crazy. Like Samantha's parents did an impromptu accidental experiment where Samantha took mushroom blocks over there. They put mushroom blocks on about half their garden, and then they never came and picked up the rest to do the rest of their garden. And lo and behold, we had a drought that year. Well, the side that they watered their garden, but the side that had no mushroom blocks didn't produce that well. The side that had mushroom blocks on it looked like a freaking jungle and had tomatoes and just everything just spilling out everywhere. And so
that's that fun accidental science.
Oh, that's exactly right. Exactly. And so it was cool to see this, because it was like, okay, this can really feed a system, if you've got a tomato farm and you get an oyster mushroom farm, you're getting a fertility product, right, to put on your grounds that has already paid you for the privilege of being there and growing for you. It's amazing.
Yeah. The other thing I'll add to the whole that closed loop system is go vertical. Go vertical with it. Think of all these high rises in New York that are vacant all of a sudden.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Stagger it.
Yeah, I can see that for sure.
It was weird because I had this idea, and it was one of those weird 4 a.m. Holy cow, this could be life changing, weird kind of thoughts, this is big. And a day or two later, I get a phone call from some guy who he comes from a background of investments, and he had found himself investing into the mushroom industry on some weird coincidence, among a lot of other things that he does. And he has just kind of had his eye on me since before, since we started pouring the foundation for the mushroom farm. I guess he was there that day to watch us pour the foundation.
Well,
I didn't know
to
that.
be fair, Ben, I've had an eye for you for a long time too, buddy.
Yeah. But he reached out to me and he said something along the lines of, he's like, I'm interested in this too. The mushroom industry is all of a sudden there's gourmet mushroom farms and it's this new thing. But what's next? What's the bigger picture? Let's cut to the chase. Where's this going? And me and him clearly were on the same thought of this is where I see it going, and I wouldn't hate to be a part of that. And I think there's potential that I might be involved in some bigger projects like that with this group. And even if not, I want to at least start running some experiments on a small scale. Apply for a SARE grant. I don't know if you know what those are.
Yeah.
And anyone who's watching, if you know me, you know I'm all about that grant writing. I'm all about that pitch
Right.
competition life. I funded this whole business the Happy Gilmore way with them big checks.
Happy Gilmore. Oh my god, I gotta have my kids watch that movie now.
I'll send it into the Discord every time I've won a pitch competition or got a grant. I'll take that Happy Gilmore picture with him holding the big check, and I'll write SporeAttic over it, and then I'll add the dollar amount that we won. But I would write a SARE grant, and I want to build a greenhouse attached to the side of the mushroom farm, and I want to have 2 identical greenhouses next to each other. And I want to vent the CO2 out of my grow room right into one side and grow identical plants, space it out perfectly the same, and then just run an experiment and see what happens. And I think I want to maybe apply for that soon. I think that would be kind of a cool experiment to do. And they'll fund you to do the experiment as long as there's an educational component, and then they'll fund you to reimburse you for your time committed. So yeah.
Really? So maybe we got some more discussing to do here in a little bit. Privately.
Yeah, you guys, you need to start writing grants.
I don't.
You
Yeah.
guys are doing so many experiments all the time, and it's changing an industry. And there's a million opportunities where you could have gotten grant funding for all kinds of stuff you've done. So we can have more conversations.
Yeah,
about
let's do
that.
that. I need to talk to you and Adam for sure. Which I'm also wanting to get Adam on here and talk. Just do some genetics talk. But
he'd be a good one, yeah.
He'd what?
He'd be a good one to have on for
yeah.
an interview.
Oh yeah, for sure. There's a bunch of people in the Discord I want to have on individually, and not to mention some of the other guys. Oh man, you were talking about sleeping at your op, and it actually made me think of, and then me talking about people I want to have on made me think of this too. But when Samantha and I went to go visit T.R. Davis out in Missouri, he was building out his second op, and when we got there, we're like, TR, where do you live? And he's like, oh, right here. And he pulls a sleeping bag out and unfurls the sleeping bag. And he's like, right here. This is where I live. And it was like, oh, that's okay. Yeah, we know how that goes.
That checks out.
Yep. That's one of the mushroom grower boxes we can check off for sure. But yeah, man, I like to have a lot of people on here, but the grants are interesting to me. I do think that there is so for me, when I got into mushrooms, I had read Mycelium Running, and he talks about, different ways you can use mushroom products and stuff like that in there. And so that, of course, that got my mind spinning. And from the very beginning, I've always wanted... Mushrooms were the cheapest to get into, the fastest turnaround, and the highest profit margin I saw of pretty much any agricultural crop. And then when you pair that with the fact that it produces a ton of fecundity, of just fertile material to work with, to me it was okay, that's easily do what?
Fecundity? I've never heard that word before.
Oh really? Fecundity, a swamp is fecund. Fecundity means it basically just means a bunch of locked up fertility.
Yeah, okay.
but you have this idea of okay, mushrooms are the first stepping stone, and then we can start working into experimenting different ways to bring them in. And so mushrooms were always my foundation, and I've kind of just thought of it it's the natural way of things. Mushrooms are the foundation from which all fertility and life kind of builds itself in the world. I mean, not entirely, but mostly. And it was okay, so that means that if we get into mushrooms, we get to start branching off into these other systems. And... if you're talking permaculture, which I know a lot of people would say growing indoors in plastic bags and all that stuff's not a very permaculture way, and I'm not going to argue that, because it makes good economic sense to me to use mushrooms to grow that fertility, to feed the next system, and like you're talking about, getting into that. And of course, if we can get some sweet grant money to do that, that would be a good idea.
I mean, I think that's coming down the pipe, like, no matter what. Someone's going to do that. Someone's going to do it small scale, then they're going to do it large scale, then they're going to franchise, or they're going to, make it universal. And I think within the next 5 to 10 years, it's going to be a very, very, very different industry. And I don't really think there's going to be a lot of room for, like, I don't think I could do what I'm doing right now 10 years from now. Like, I just don't think it would work. I think it's going to be just like the microbrewery movement, it started out with, like, there was a couple of them. I know, like, in Michigan, it was like Bell's and Founders, like, were the first, like, big microbreweries, and that kind of, like, changed the game. Everyone was drinking Budweiser and, Busch Light and everything. And all of a sudden, there's this, like, craft brewery movement. Now there's a craft brewery, like, there's a brewery on every city block. Like, it's saturated. And I think that's exactly what mushroom farming is going to look like in about 5 to 10 years.
I kind of disagree a little bit. I agree with you, and I disagree. Like, I feel like this specific model will have a limited lifespan. I mean, I think so. I can't tell you how many farms I work on that are profitable within the first few months, and so it's still, like, even if you've got 5 or 10 years, it's still worth doing. But, like, I think you're right. There'll be oyster mushroom farms in particular will be everywhere. Now that said, it's much easier for, like, a mega farm. If you split up the profit margins of a mega farm amongst a bunch of different households, then you can support quite a few households, mom and pop shopping those oyster mushroom farms. But beyond that, I think, like what I was saying, like, unlike craft beer, which, there's tons of craft breweries there, there's tons of types of beers for sure, but mushrooms are so diverse as if they're vegetables. You don't see broccoli farms crowding out tomato farms. And so I'm kind of thinking that, but what you're talking about, by the time you reach that level of saturation, mushrooms are getting into the mainstream culture. They're being eaten a lot more. Then you get Enoki farms, King farms, people who start to specialize in something.
Yeah.
And I think that what you're talking about is important, where you're saying somebody with big money is going to notice. And like you said, I've already talked to people with big money, like, and I have too, who are getting into this and they have money to spend. The good news is that they will come in, they will spend some of that money, they will gobble up some real estate, but people who have been bootstrapping it will move on to chestnuts or black poplar. Like, they'll find a black poplar strain, and then these guys who, even though they're throwing money at it, unless they've hired someone with experience, it's going to take time for them to learn these other systems. Not to mention, we don't even know, if their specific franchising model will be profitable with anything other than oysters, or if maybe they'll do more of the shiitake method, like where they're ordering blocks from a huge central source and then shipping those blocks out amongst multiple farms. But at that point, you're still talking about, like, tons of people still making a living, off of those franchises. And I don't think that's going to knock us out of business. Like, I don't see that for.
Yeah, we'll see. I also feel like the mushroom industry is a little trendy. It's a little, like, it's hot right now, like, all of a sudden everyone's like, oh, I've been reading about lion's mane. Oh man, like, I just started learning about all these gourmet mushrooms. Like, it's a very, like, new kind of hot topic, and I do kind of worry that buzz is going to wear off eventually. Like, hopefully not in the near future, but I think it will eventually. And then mushrooms will be, like, I don't know, how stoked are you about the local producer that grows broccoli? Like, do you even think of that? I think it'll kind of be like that with mushrooms. Like, right now, holy cow, mushroom farmer here in our little town. Like, whoa. No, you don't think about that about the guy who grows, peas or tomatoes or whatever.
Now, that said, I still see chefs buying local broccoli and local tomatoes and local peppers and stuff. And so, again, what I feel like I feel like you and I are saying kind of the same thing, which is the market's going to have to mature one day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And, like, I totally get that. Like, it's not gonna be what it is now. It's not gonna be in 10 years. You're absolutely right. I feel like.
the unfortunate reality there too is when it matures, the price is going to come way down. And the tough thing there is what I hope people realize is the reason we have to charge 10, 12 bucks a pound is because there's a lot that goes into this. It's a very expensive process. And so we're making a product or a profit on 12 bucks a pound. I couldn't turn a profit on $6 a pound. I'd go out of business. If the the price of mushrooms goes down to $6 to $8 a pound, I don't know if I could do it. And so there's got to suddenly have a warehouse the size of a football field to make it work. And that's what scares me.
I get what you're saying there, but I'm also looking at I think there'll be a period where the price bottoms out, and then there'll be a period where it comes back up and stabilizes at a certain point. Portobello's. So when I sell my mushrooms to restaurants, my chefs have told me that I should actually up my prices because I'm only 30 cents more a pound than mass distributed portobellos. And so I think that there's a bottom that it'll hit that will still see profit. I don't think it's going to be the insane margins we're seeing now, and I think that you're going to see a similar thing happen to microgreens eventually. Even though I am absolutely starting to grow microgreens. But
that's two industries that just go hand in hand.
Well, they do. So what I'm planning on doing is, the where you start your seeds for microgreens, you got your seeds. You leave your root material and some of the plant matter in that there, and it's usually peat moss or people use different natural materials in there. Well, you just roll those mats up, and throw them in some grow bags and steam it and inoculate it, and then grow mushrooms off of your spent microgreen substrate. And I'm going to do some trials on that soon.
Nice.
And that's where I think you're going, like what you and I are talking about, these diversified farms of feeding each other I think they're going to fare better than someone who just franchises into oyster mushrooms and then tries to soak up profits just doing these franchised oyster mushrooms. I think eventually you're going to, especially as things are kind of going, I think you're going to be seeing a return to more diversified farms. You'll have probably mass commodity farms for stuff like wheat, sugar, things like that. And then I think for a lot of fresh vegetables, I think you're going to be seeing a return to a diversified farm setup. Just because it's hard to get better food at a cheaper price if you've got all of your inputs are feeding each other for the most part.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if my main import to my farm is straw pellets and soy pellets, then then I get to turn that into 15 products. That's a pretty good system.
You're sitting pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I'm interested to hear you say that. It's an interesting take, and I like that you're at least thinking about how it could go wrong.
Yeah, and that's part of what drives the I want to have the best product I can possibly have. I want to overstuff my boxes. I want everything to be super fresh, super trimmed. I know something's coming down the road. I don't know if it happens next month or 5 years from now, but eventually it's going to become harder to do what I'm already doing. So I want to put the processes in place to make sure I'm sitting in the best position I can be when it happens.
Yep. I agree with that for sure. So Dan just put on the chat, I would love to see you both become a franchisor. It would be something like SporeAttic Incorporated, like no other startup franchise.
SporeAttic.
and
all right, let's go into business together, Andrew.
All right, dude, let's do it. I'm always down. You are way more detail oriented. I think that you would get fed up with me though. I don't think you would actually want to work with me because
I was going to say the same thing. I was going to say the same thing about me.
Well, no, I actually have a rule. I specifically hire people like you who are detail oriented and hard workers and always wanting to do their best, because I can always come in and just say, no, don't do that much there. Do more detail oriented work over there. But again, I think I would drive you crazy with the amount of messes I leave behind me. But then again, it sounds like you're kind of the same in some ways on that. But
yeah. there's certain areas where I'm like, this needs to be as close to perfect as we can be.
Yeah.
And then there's other ones where I'm like, it'll grow mushrooms. It'll work.
It'll work.
I always say that. I'm like, hey Ben, I did this. Is that all right? It'll grow mushrooms.
Yeah.
It'll be all right.
I always just call it like, I'll be like, yeah, that's a Sherman tank, and they're like, what? And like typically it would be like it's always the Sherman tank method. Good enough. Like I don't care if we have to throw 5 tanks at the problem. Like I don't care if 4 of them die. We just want that one. Good enough. We just want to accomplish the mission. I'm actually writing an article right now for the blog about how basically how I grow is the American manufacturing system. I think is what it's called. Like that's what I try to set up. I want to cut every process out that I could possibly cut, and still deliver my product to market.
Yeah,
just an incredibly simple system. But well, Ben, we've been going at it for 2 hours and 15 minutes. Is there anything you want to discuss specifically that I haven't asked?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No, I think I'm good.
Okay. Well, if people want to find out more about you, where do they go?
I honestly like the best place to follow us is our Instagram. It's just at SporeAttic.
Okay.
SporeAttic. Everything on Facebook is just the same thing that's on Instagram. We do have a website, although I haven't updated it in a while. It's just SporeAttic.com. Yeah, I'd say like the best way to like get in touch with me, just shoot me a message on Instagram. Follow us on Instagram. I try to put up a story like every day.
Okay.
Little something, whatever's happening in the grow room or the lab or farmers markets or whatever. Yeah.
Now, are you doing only fresh mushrooms, or is there other things that you provide people? Like, can they go to your website and buy stuff, or?
Not yet, but that is my goal for the near future.
Okay.
I've got like 5 big goals for like what the next year has in store, and one of those is to develop an online market platform and start supplying, substrates, plates, maybe cultures. I don't know if I want to do cultures. Maybe we'll see.
Yeah.
Whatever else, and then like I said earlier, we're just getting into the value-added space. So we're developing like mushroom chips and jerkies and powders and just dehydrated mushrooms and all that. And so we've got our processing license, but we're in the process of getting our wholesale license to where we can actually start distributing this stuff. So once we've got that secured, then we're going to set up an online market and we'll be able to sell everything like nationwide. Yeah, I think a lot's going to change over the next 3 to 6 months or so. So stay tuned.
I think that sounds good, man. I wanna see some stuff that you do. Now, when you say you're thinking about cultures, like, are you thinking about getting into breeding at all, or are you going to be doing more commercial strains?
I don't feel like I want to sell cultures that aren't mine. If I sold, literally all of my cultures I get from you. So
well,
that seems kind of dirty, right? Like I know like a lot of people do it. A lot of people are like, buy the SporeAttic Blue Oyster, when in reality, it's the Mossy Creek Mushrooms Blue Oyster or the King Blue or whatever, like, I don't know, maybe I'll get into breeding at some point, but like I was saying earlier, I only want to grow things right now that I know will produce 3 pounds or more, and I think I just need to, like, I got to simplify some stuff right now. I got to minimize the, like, playing around and experimenting. I want to minimize my time in the mushroom farm and like maximize growth. So right now, I don't think I'm getting into breeding quite yet. I know that's coming in the future. I'm just excited to do it. I just don't think right now is the time. Like we've got enough on our plate to figure out.
Nope, for sure. Sorry, I was actually watching the stream, and it's got a delay on it, so you were still talking, but it went silent. And then, I was like, what? Like, what happened? But it was just that delay. By the way, Mushroom Mama said to say, tell Ben Mushroom Mama loves him. And you too, Andrew. Well, hello, Mushroom Mama. Nice to see you.
I love you too, Mushroom Mama.
Yeah, we love you too. So let me ask you, so I asked people in the chat if they want to ask you anything. Just kind of like, let's do a quick Q&A. somebody asked this. I don't know if you want to answer it or not, and you can feel free to just say nope and skip. How much magic mushrooms does Ben take weekly? Skip.
Zero. No,
oh, zero.
Zero. Like
Zero. Zero magic mushrooms weekly. Very good. I've kind of figured that would be the answer. And then Rocket City said he wants to talk to you tonight, man.
You might be on the Discord later.
Yeah, I think I'll be on a little bit later on tonight as well. And it's honestly, so I don't know if you guys know that I actually closed the links for the Discord for the most part. If people want to get on the Discord, they have to join the Patreon now. Yeah, so
let's have Becca jump in.
Do what? Yeah, well, you can invite Becca. I'll be okay with that.
All right, cool.
Yeah, she works for you. Like if somebody works for you, that's different. Like that's then just have it. Like, but we just had like a flood of people come in, and it was just like, oh my gosh, I can't manage this. And thankfully, Big John took over for me. But like it was brutal, just trying to keep up with everything. And even then, like I feel bad for Big John because I feel like I just like, here, man, take my problem, go, run with it.
Like he was nervous. I was talking with him, and he was like nervous to like ask you for like that, like.
Oh goodness, no, man! I freaking love Big John, and he's done a fantastic job with the Discord.
Yeah, I wouldn't feel bad about it at all. I think he's stoked to do it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good. If that makes me feel a little bit better. Like
I don't think you need to feel upset about that at all.
Well, good.
Were there any other questions?
Oh yeah. Let's see. Honestly, I'm not seeing a lot of questions. What? Yggdrasil, when you first started going around to restaurants, how long did it take to get, say, 10 restaurants?
Well, I don't know if you need to quantify it with number of restaurants as opposed to like number of pounds sold. Because you could have one restaurant that does 100 pounds, or you could have 10 restaurants that do 10 pounds each.
Well, let's just say he's assuming one case per restaurant and doing 10 cases. So how long did it take you to get selling 10 cases?
So what happened with me was we were writing a grant. Shocker.
Yeah, right.
and like, or no, actually it was a pitch competition, and we knew like this is a good slide deck. Like we're dialed pretty well, but the one component we're missing is like the market validation. This was in that phase, like we're about to go. This is right around the time I did my consultation with you.
Okay.
We're about to like start building the facility. It's still an idea. We're pretty confident this thing's gonna work, but like we don't actually have like concrete evidence that our product will sell. So we're like, the one element that we're missing is market validation. So we did like an email blast to maybe 15 restaurants. And we were like, hello, here's who we are. We're a gourmet mushroom farm. We're starting up soon. We're not looking for any sort of commitment, but we're just looking to start the conversation with some restaurants and see, like, would you be interested in this product? Happy to have further conversations. Like, just let us know what you're thinking. We sent that out to like 15 restaurants. I think like 5 of them got back to us and were like, we're very interested. Like, oh, we're very, very interested. One of those being Open Range, which is a local restaurant who's consistently been our largest restaurant, like our biggest supporter, like our ride or die from day one. They do 40 pounds a week. They hosted a big event that was just like huge 4 or 5 course meal, all sporadic mushroom dinner. Like love Open Range.
Dude, those kind of chefs, man, when you get those golden chefs, they're worth their weight in gold.
Gosh.
Yeah.
He was just out at the farm today. He just showed up unannounced, unrelated to the mushroom farm. But I was like, Bobby, what are you doing here? But so anyway, back to the question. So we had like going into this business, we had like 2 restaurants that were like, we absolutely 100% want to be your first customer. Like, so we knew we already had 60 pounds a week sold. That was like huge. That was like, oh my gosh, this is gonna work. 60 pounds a week. That's roughly $500-$600 a week. Like, it's not a ton, but that's some good market validation. And then we had other restaurants who were like, yeah, like we'll talk, like we'll be interested. Like let us know. Like let us know once you have a product. And that was like the big thing was let us know once you have a product. And so
that's the hardest thing.
We had that like kind of deck of like 7 restaurants who were like, they expressed interest, but they're not like gonna commit to anything. They hey, we'll put our name in the hat. Let us know when you have something 8 months from now. And so when we did, we just, I'd either give them a call or an email, make sure I touch base with them, and then I'd show up and I'd just give them a case of mushrooms for free, which was something I learned from you. And it would usually be like 7 pounds. Yeah.
Tell me more good things about me.
I think I've said enough. You show up with like a pretty good case of mushrooms. There's another piece of advice from Andrew. Don't give them your best mushrooms. Give them like your second best.
Yeah.
So they don't set the bar too high. But I'd give them like 8 or 9 different types of mushrooms, whatever we had, and just show up. These are yours. I'm just giving these to you. Play around with them for a week or so. Make a few dishes. Get some good customer feedback, and like give us a call if you'd like to. And I'd say like maybe like 7 out of 10 times it works. They're like, hey, we really want to do business. Those mushrooms were amazing. Like every dish we made was off the charts. Like the customers love it, we love it. Let's do it. So we were pretty successful with that. I'd say we had 10 restaurants, which was about 150 pounds of mushrooms per week. Probably within 3-4 months.
Okay.
Could have been faster, but it was like that was as fast as we could get to. Like, I want to grow 200 pounds a week before I commit to selling 150. I don't want to grow 150 and commit to 150. That's dumb. Like, that's not smart, because you will grow 150 this week, but you're going to grow 120 next week, and then you'll grow 180, but then you're going to grow 130. And so if you're going to commit to 150, make sure you can grow 200. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's one of the things for me. Like, you were talking about your commercial kitchen, having that always producing extra, so you always have some that you can give as samples, is the only way that you can really grow. But it also, like, overgrowing protects your stability. And then when you have something like a commercial kitchen at your disposal, or for us, I mean, like, I'll be honest, end of days ever happens, we're going to be eating a ton of mushrooms, because we dehydrate them and then put them in Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers, close them up, seal them, put them in 5-gallon buckets, and they go in the emergency food storage. And we're going to be eating rice and beans and mushrooms.
I've probably got 30 pounds of dried mushrooms. My pantry is just so full.
Yep. But it also, it's nice, like, I don't know if you've tried this yet, man, but if you do rice and water in like a rice cooker, and then add some mushroom powder, or even just some really crinkled up dried mushrooms, and just let them cook like normal. Just add a little extra water, because they absorb that water. But oh my gosh, man, it makes a mushroom rice like crazy.
Yeah, I gotta pick your brain more about cooking with dehydrated mushrooms, because I have literally no experience. I haven't cooked with a single dehydrated mushroom yet.
Man,
Not one.
That dehydrated are easy. They're so easy. So, okay, let's see. Justin asks, what's the learning curve from growing 50 pounds a week to 300 pounds a week? Bumps in the road to anticipate?
Can I run and use the restroom real quick one more time, and then I'll answer that?
Yeah, man, go ahead.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. That's fine. Yeah, thank you, Big John. Oh, and you retracted your message. Let's see. How much you guys have learned from each other. Thank you, the exception to the rule. I really appreciate that. Mossy Creek. Oh, Rocket wants to talk about the Mossy Creek egg bake. That's right, man. Have you cooked any more of that since we last cooked together on the Discord? That's a while. Also, I don't know if I can say that online. I really, screw it. We'll try it. I really want to try. I'm getting enoki mushrooms coming in right now, right from Jeff Maginaro's culture. I've got those growing in these golden enoki. So I'm taking 2 pounds of those. I'm cooking them down in a stock pot, and then pouring that with a couple of pounds of sugar into a demijohn. and then capping that off, and planning on doing an enoki mushroom wine, doing that. And then I think I'm going to try making an enoki distillate and see how that tastes. So,
and you're going to have all that ready by October, right? When we all get together?
Oh, dude, if we, especially the distillate. I don't know about the wine. A wine takes as long as a wine takes. You know what I'm saying? But
start it now, and we'll figure out if it's ready in October.
That sounds good. We can do that.
I bought my plane ticket, by the way.
You bought your plane ticket?
Oh, yeah.
Nice. So, yeah, I guess what Ben's referencing is some of the guys on the Discord and we're doing a Mossy Creek Mushrooms get-together October 30th down at the Foundry, the Mossy Creek Mushrooms building. So, it's fun. And then Rocket City said... he said something about the Mossy Creek egg bake. I don't know that I've ever talked to you about this, but I'll take a cast iron skillet, slick it with butter, and then cut up onions, throw the onions in, take mushrooms, cut them up while the onions are cooking, throw those in, and then peppers if I'm going to do peppers, meat if I'm going to do meat. Really get that good and sauteed up, and make sure the pan is slick. You start cracking your eggs in there. So I'll do like 14 eggs for my family, duck eggs. And you just crack them in there, pour a little milk, and then just get it all going, all mixed together, and then let it cook about halfway through. And this whole time, you've had the oven going to 450 degrees. As soon as those eggs are cooked about halfway through, you put them in the oven and let them finish off to where they're browned, and then throw some cheese on top, brown it again, and man, that egg bake is so good.
Ooh, talk dirty to me.
Yeah, right. And then, man, like that, and then a little bit of, just eating that and some toast and some Worcestershire sauce. Oh, my gosh. That's good stuff.
We're going to have to play around with some of that, some cool mushroom recipes in October.
Heck yeah, man. Let's do it. Okay, so what's the learning curve from growing 50 pounds a week to 300 pounds a week? And what are the bumps in the road to anticipate?
The simple answer is you have no way of knowing what those hurdles are going to be, but there will be hurdles. Every day, there will be a new thing that you had no way of expecting. Like all of a sudden, your $4,000 Bubba Barrel steam sterilizer is just going to be full to the top of water.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. The thing that you spent $4,000 on because it's the most gold standard, best thing on the market that you know is absolutely foolproof is going to fail you. And now you don't have bags ready to go, or you need to decide, what do I do with all of these bags that are soaking wet now? And then you do something weird with water crystals and find a way to salvage it, and it ends up working. Those are the kinds of things.
Don't take away my big reveal, man.
That's what I'm saying though, is something will come up every couple of days that you have no way of knowing what it's going to be, but it's going to throw a knife in whatever you're doing, and you've got to be able to react. All I can really say is there will be a lot of hurdles from 50 to 300 pounds a week. When I was doing 50 pounds a week, which granted that was 1 week, and then we kept going from there. That was we literally the building wasn't even finished yet. I had timed it out because I had committed to that Halloween farmers market 6 months prior. I was we will be ready by that Halloween farmers market. Halloween's very special to me, if you know me.
I agree. We take it off as a holiday, and we do actually. Yeah. It's like a religious holiday for us.
Yeah. Which, for anyone watching, this was kind of the motive for why we did the get-together at Mossy Creek Mushrooms was on Halloween. Was kind of this sentimental special value of Halloween.
Yep.
But I knew, we have to be ready by then. So, I had already started, running my flow hood and inoculating bags. And I didn't even have my Bubba Barrel, arrived. It hadn't even arrived yet. I was just doing, 4 pressure cookers a week or something. Yeah. So I could do, and I was doing little bags. So I could do, 5-pound bags in there. And so I was just I need to get X amount of bags ready so that I can inoculate by this day, so that I can have mushrooms ready by October 31st. And holy cow, it came down to the wire. Like, we literally had our first harvest like that day. It was like we harvested like our first 10 pounds and brought it to the farmer's market. And so at that point, like, 40, 50 pounds a week, you're just figuring out all of the major kinks of your operation. Does your steam sterilizer work? Like, do you have good aseptic technique? I had good technique, but I was getting tons and tons of mold and contamination. So you're gonna hit that. You're gonna you're gonna have all kinds of things go wrong at first. So the 50 pounds a week is like, does your operation work? Do you have a fruiting room that is conducive to growing mushrooms? Does your incubation room sit at a temperature? Incubation is pretty simple. Do you have a flow hood that actually works? And you have a way of inoculating without making contamination. So the 50 pounds a week is run that for a while. Once you can do that, your operation works, then getting up to 300 pounds a week is a factor of scale. Do you have the manpower? Do you have the ability to dispose of 120 blocks every week? Where do those go?
People don't think about that. People don't think about throwing their blocks away, man.
What's that?
I said people don't think about throwing their blocks away.
Yeah.
That's why I did a video on it, because I didn't think about it, and then one day I had rats.
That mountain of bags you had, exactly.
Yep.
Have you thought about that yet? Have you thought about what you're going to do with your blocks? Have you thought about keeping up with your grain spawn? You've got, if you're inoculating to get 50 pounds a week, maybe you need 2 bags of grain spawn a week. To do 300 pounds a week, maybe you need 15 bags of grain spawn a week. Right. And maybe are you doing 1 culture, or are you doing 15 cultures? I grow 10 or 11 different types of mushrooms. So we've got 10 or 11 different types of grain spawn, and you've got to have a staggered, this one's ready to go, this one will be ready in 4 days, this one will be ready next week. And you got to keep track of all that. So it's as you're growing, you find all these weird little things that you're we need to start paying attention to that. We need to start soaking and pressure cooking grain 2-3 times a week. Every week. We can't miss that. You just start and you just learn. So what I would say, best recommendation is just grow slow. Grow, 51 week, 60, 70, 80. Don't try to go from 50 to 200 in a week. You're going to burn so hard. And that's Josiah and we really got into it a while back, because he was talking about doing he's yeah, we're going to grow 800 pounds a week. I'm like, dude, be careful. I'm not trying to be a hater. I'm not trying to doubt you. But do you realize what it takes to harvest 800 pounds of mushrooms?
I mean, that's a lot. Now, I will say, you work a lot harder than most people I know at harvesting.
Yeah.
But you are right. The 800 pounds is still a lot. It's still a lot of mushrooms.
What a delivery route looks like to sell 800 pounds. And you're assuming every restaurant will consistently buy mushrooms every week. That ain't going to be how it works. You're going to have 50 restaurants. 30 of them will be consistent week to week to week. 10 of them will be every other week. 10 of them are going to, hey, we're taking this week off. We're taking this week off. Oh, we're going to need a huge order next week. And then you're going to have private chefs who are going to need 30 pounds and then none at all.
Which is exactly why I try to lock people into weekly, if you will commit to this, then I can commit to this. It's not a perfect solution, though. It's not a perfect solution because they still change.
You can set the standard as best you can and let every single chef know, I need you to commit to consistency so that I can produce consistently. I'm not selling you 10 pounds of mushrooms. I'm leasing you real estate in my facility. Yeah. I got that from you.
I thought that sounded familiar.
Yeah, that's from you.
Well, it kind of gives them
every single chef. Even then, even though you set the precedent that that's how I need to operate, there will still be restaurants that need to take a week off. There'll be a special 1 week where they need an extra 20 pounds. Things are going to change. And
Damn,
so like
Ben,
don't jump right
You got
into
me.
800 pounds a week. That's crazy.
Yeah, like
Start
that's shooting for the moon right off the bat. Like hit the atmosphere first. Like dude, you've got I might as well call this Mossy Creek or the MossBack Mushroom Syndicate with Ben Deuling, the wake up call.
Well, actually, it's funny you say that because, like, I was thinking about this earlier. We talked about this on our consultation like a year plus ago. That all of these other mushroom farmers, T.R. Davis, Earth Angel Mushrooms, and Brian, what is it, Callow from What the Fungus. Their YouTube presence is very like, you better be ready because it's gonna hit. It's going to hit hard. It's going to be the hardest thing you ever do in your life. You will cry real tears. And it's,
right.
And
I've seen that
and
one.
Like they're not wrong. Like everything they said, completely accurate. Like absolutely right. It is the hardest thing I've ever done. I have cried many times in that mushroom farm. And I've only been doing it for 6 months. But like that was the interesting thing about your presence on YouTube, because I was tunnel visioned into What the Fungus until I realized like this is only going to get me so far. Like he's the outdoor expert.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And then I stumbled across one of your videos, and it was so optimistic. It was like, yeah, man, like you don't want to be like in the grow room 24/7. Like do what you got to do, and then go like spend time with your family. And I was like, this guy gets it.
Well, and you're right. Like you said, those 6 months was hard, man. For me, it was 3 years of just like stress levels. But like then you get the employees, then you start learning how to take time off and everything else. Like I really like the whole point of the YouTube channel was I was like, I don't want other people to have to go through 3 years of hell. Like, and I'm so glad that like we were able to shorten yours down to 6 months. Like that is so beautiful to me. And like, and I'll be honest, like you're one of my earlier students, right? Like it's been about a year ago. So like I've only been doing teaching for a couple of years. 2.5 years I've been teaching now. And so like I've gotten better at it, but of course the YouTube channel didn't blow up till like last year,
Yeah.
And so like I've been teaching a lot of people now. So now it's like almost we're getting it quicker and quicker and quicker, but still like you're right. Like those guys, they're not wrong. It is hard. It's worth it, but it's hard. Like it's so hard.
Yeah.
It
is. It is unbelievably difficult to be a mushroom farmer. It is so hard.
It's like Samantha said. Samantha said, "Many hands make light work," and that's like, having your team. Your team crazy. Is what it's about.
Yep, it's amazing. Like I love the feeling of knowing like Becca's in the lab inoculating blocks, Svetlana's out on the porch dry packing bags, and I'm in the grotum harvesting. I'm like, this is beautiful. This is like. It makes me so happy.
You do the work together, and you have a good work-life balance. It's awesome.
See how it's not picking you up very well. You're
it's not picking up Sam very well.
I said you do the work together, and then you have a good work-life balance between all of you, and it's awesome.
And I want to start doing more stuff like with the team. Like I want to maybe try to do like one thing a month that's like away from the mushroom farm. Like maybe we go on a hike together. Maybe we go at least like go grab drinks or something. Like do something together outside of mushroom farming. I think would be really cool to kind of also like try to build that dynamic. Becca's gonna watch this and she's gonna be like, "Hey Ben, when are we getting drinks?"
Right, exactly. We got a James Mundell that says, "In the beginning, did you buy a round of already made blocks, or did you start your business from step one and move forward from there?"
What I did was I made all my blocks, but I bought my first 2 rounds of spawn from Northsport.
Mm-hmm.
So I bought like $450 worth of cultures from Mossy Creek Mushrooms. I was like, add to cart every single thing you have. I want it all. And then, but I knew like, okay, so you take your syringe, you grow it up on agar. Okay, you probably should go to another agar play, and then you go into grain, grow that up, and then you inoculate. So I had that arrive at the same time that I had all ready to go grain. So I ordered like a king oyster, a lion's mane, or a Combs tooth maybe, and then like one other thing from North Spore. So it was like I can get these, like I could do like 3 batches. It was like Monday, Thursday, Monday with the North Spore spawn, and then by that Thursday, your cultures were grown in to grain, and then from then on, it was like now I'm doing everything myself.
Okay, so you bought some ready made.
I had like crunched the numbers, and I was like, we need mushrooms by October 31st, which means they need to be cut open in the grow room by this day, which means they need to be into incubation by this day, which means they need to be into grain by this, or inoculated this day, which means they need to be into grain, or
Ben,
you could.
I will say,
it was like I did the math, and I was like, okay, shipping takes so long. If I start from a syringe right now, I won't have mushrooms by the farmer's market. So I need to order the syringes, but I also need ready to go grain. And I knew if you order grain, there's a decent wait. They got to produce it. Mm-hmm. But if you order the discount grain, it's all ready to go. They're just trying to get rid of it. It's going to ship out that same day. So I bought all the discount grain. And that worked. It worked really well.
I was going to be honest here with you, Ben. I'm really glad those numbers I gave you were correct then. If you did your numbers based off the numbers I gave you, and they were right to the day, I am really glad that I was that right.
Well, it wasn't. It was like I had watched so many videos from you and all these other mushroom farmers, and I talked to people on Facebook groups, and I like had a good idea of like how long each species took to incubate and how long it took to fruit. And I think it was largely what you and I talked about in our consultation. It was so stressful. It was like the night before the farmer's market. It was like 8 p.m. And I'm just like staring at the grow room like, grow.
Dude, and they don't grow any faster no matter how much you talk them into it. Like, you sweet talk them, they don't do anything. So
I think they grow faster if you leave them alone.
I think you're right, like, for sure. All right, let's see. Oh, Big John said, Andrew, don't pay attention to me. What? Because I was talking. I was talking earlier to him, I guess. So Justin said, Andrew, are you using the Enoki mycelium for the wine or the fruit? I read that published trial. It sounds like they're using mycelium to make mushroom wine like liquid culture. So Justin, I was going to do that. I haven't done that yet. I'm just going to take the fruit and then cook it down in a pot and turn that into the base for the wine. So, and then Dan's saying that he needs to start a fund for October 30th. He wants to come. So yeah, we ought to get that Scottish. What's a nice word for a Scotsman? Anyways, we need to get the Scots ass down here. What are you hitting me for?
Just, I don't know.
Okay. Let's see. What's the percentage of blocks going into the fruiting chamber that will produce?
All of them?
Better
be all of them.
Better be all of them?
Yeah, what? Better be all of them.
So I always count on a 10% loss, but I rarely have as much as a 10% loss.
So I remember that number. Like you had said something a while back. Like if you're doing better than 10%, you're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
And this will also answer the most recent question in the chat, which was what's the learning curve on Contam or what's the bell curve on Contam or something like that. I have a master's in microbiology, and I refuse to accept any level of contamination.
Perfectionist, gotcha.
I have mastered the microbes.
There you go.
No, so what? So at first, I was losing like 30% of my blocks, probably. But most of that would show up in the incubation room. Like it would be in a contamination that would happen in the lab, and there would be like some kind of mold. The game-changing move, 2 moves. One was I used to pressure cook my grain for 90 minutes, dumb. Like, I don't know why I did that. Pressure cook your grain for 2.5 hours at 15 psi. It will work every time. 2.5 hours. Don't do 90 minutes. That was game changing. I don't know why. I think I did 90 minutes when I was just like doing it in my laundry room, and it was working. So I relied on that, and I lost so much money because of that. The other thing was I built a positive pressure system into my lab. So I run a duct above the door that goes into the lab. On the outside of the door, there's a MERV 6 filter. Then there's a MERV 11 filter, and then there's a HEPA filter, and then there's a fan blowing into the lab. So the lab is positively pressure through a series of filters, with the last one being a HEPA filter. And so I just run that 24/7. Ever since the day we put that in back in October, I have had zero contamination.
It's amazing what that positive pressure for the lab will do, man.
But like you said, and I guess I didn't think about this, like I've been battling blotch in the grow room, and so there's like I think that's a totally different contamination. Like that was never present in the bag until I cut it open, and I had, I literally had algae growing in my fogger. Like it looked like a fish tank that hadn't been cleaned in months. And
right. Now I will say that was
to admit that. Like I had relied on my UV light from House Hydro was killing it. I went like 2 months, and I was like, the water's so crystal clear. One day, it was like early morning. I had slept on the cot, woke up, I went and checked the hardness I used to check the hardness every day in the fogger. Because I ran like RO water and regular water, and I tried to get right at like 100, so I would just teeter. Like,
right.
That was dumb. That was stupid. But I was experimenting. And I checked the hardness, and I was all tired. I walked back in, and I drank the glass of water.
Oh my gosh!
From my fogger.
Oh!
That hadn't been cleaned in like 2 months.
Oh my gosh!
And I was just tired. I drank it, and I was like, oh crap!
Oh my gosh!
I was like, wait a sec, that was crystal clear. Like that was not. And so from that day on, I was like, oh, I never have to clean my fogger again.
Well, I think...
And then it gets covered in minerals, and then it stops working, and then that's where that's where my blotch came from. I'm pretty sure. Because we opened it up, and it was literally like slime, algae,
this is
everywhere.
That's the biggest thing, is that people always, with blotch, I'm like, clean your humidifier. And they're like, well, I just cleaned it like last week. I'm like, yeah, I clean mine. We clean ours twice a week. Until you told me about the UV filters, and I was like, why am I not doing that? I've come from aquaculture. You'd think I would use UV lights. And so...
Run it, but still clean.
Well, we still do, but we've been playing with it, and so we clean it every other week now, our humidifier. And, because I looked at it this way, I was like, okay, if I get that UV light like Ben talked about, and it halves my labor, I've made a ton of money already.
Yeah, it's like a $30 light or something.
Right. Well, no, I mean, I bought just some aquaculture lights, little wand lights that just sit in there, and I think I paid $6 a piece for them.
Yeah, they're cheap.
Yeah, and it saves me.
Keep an eye on them, because I know you guys have hard water, and like the calcium or whatever will build up on the outside. Once that happens, it'll stop working. So like soak them in vinegar every once in a while and scrub that mineral off of it, because that's what went wrong with us. Like I went and checked that light, and it was just covered in like calcium, or whatever the minerals are, and so the UV light wasn't working, even though it had been running. Learn from my mistake.
I will, man. I will. And see this. So I'm glad that you said that, because I had not thought of that. But we do take our humidifier completely apart once every 2 weeks now. It used to be once every week, and then it was twice a week. But we always take every part from the elevator, the PVC elevator, to the reservoir, to everything, and we bleach, soak it, and clean it. And we usually do take the pressure washer and blast any scale we see building off on stuff. Or do a vinegar bath based on like if it's the refill valve or whatever. But I will take a look at it for sure to and tell the crew to make sure to keep an eye on it. But that right there, that little nugget of information you gave me, was exactly the whole reason I wanted to start like doing the YouTube channel and doing like open source mushroom growing as much as possible, because at this point, like I kind of hate it. Like you paid me to learn from me, and I really appreciate that. But I feel like I've learned a ton back from you from a lot. Like HRV, you've helped me with HRV stuff. You've helped me with all this other stuff, and it was nice, like getting you. Like I don't know, man. You're like the epitome of what I was trying to do, what I was trying to build when I started this YouTube channel. So I appreciate that. Thank you for that.
I appreciate that.
That's you're welcome. All right, let's find another one. Samantha. Oh my gosh, what is going on here in the chat?
I didn't do it.
No. Okay, that was Justin. Justin said he would love to grow slow, but he's already got an LOI for 250 pounds a week client. Got to make it work. Ooh.
Maybe don't.
Maybe see if you can build into it. If they'll let you build into it.
Yeah, like so. I had a resort reach out to me last week, and they were like, after talking with all the head chefs, we think we want to do 100 pounds a week. And I told them, well, they also said, like, we don't expect you to just be able to produce 100 pounds a week. Like,
right.
We understand that you need to, like, build into that. Because I got a chance to show these chefs around my farm and show them and explain them everything in detail. So they understood, like, what it takes to grow 100 pounds of mushrooms. I would say talk to that account, talk to that restaurant, and see, well, what if we start out at 50 pounds a week? And then as we are able, we will grow. Ask them, like I make a note on a big whiteboard for every single account. How flexible are they?
Right.
Do they need exactly the same thing every week without fail? Or could I give them 20 pounds one week and 40 pounds one week? And could it be all oysters one week and then a mix of everything the next week? That's all really good information for you to know. So just talk to them, let them know, like, that's hard on our end. We can try our best, but I can't guarantee you that I'm just going to always be able to do 250 pounds a week. I would be willing to bet we're going to screw up at some point through fault of our or through some unexplainable circumstance. And so if you would be willing to, like, start out smaller and allow us to grow into that, then, maybe we'll get there soon.
It's really nice to diversify your checks too and your income streams.
Yeah.
And use that really large client to essentially pay for your monthly bills, and then the smaller ones to pay for your weekly bills. So that's really nice.
Did you hear that, Ben?
Well, you guys do like you do a net 30, don't you?
So we started off COD, cash on delivery, cash or check on delivery.
Yeah.
And I would say maybe 60% of our business is still COD as far as fresh mushrooms go. But the other 40% has now been going on to a net 30. And I have a problem with the net 30 clients. Like, we have one client that takes 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So 140 pounds a week. They take
I know who you're.
You're right, yeah. And they are notorious for, like, I'll give you an example. 3 weeks ago, I got a $3,000 check from them. Last week, I got a $295 check from them. Even though we deliver the exact same amount of mushrooms to them every week. This week, not a check. Which means next week's check's going to be another $3,000 or $4,000 check.
And if I remember right, you explained this exact same conversation like a year ago. Like, same account. Yep. We were like, yep, they're like $9,000 in the hole, and like they asked us if they could pay like $3,000 and then wait another month, and then like those big accounts, it's awesome, but like are they going to pay you every week? Like,
right, you gotta stay on top of
you're fronting the cost for all the labor and the material and everything to produce 250 pounds a week. Are they going to pay you every single week $2,500 or whatever it is? You know, like that's important.
big time. Trying to find where the mouse is. I think your arm was holding it. Sorry, I was having a technical problem. Let's see.
No.
I agree with you, man. Like, and those big clients, like, they're nice, and then that's what Samantha was saying. Like, we use them. So, my Fresh Mushrooms pays the bills. Like, the COD guys pay all my bills. And then basically Samantha and I just don't make a living until the resort pays. Until my big client pays. You know what I'm saying? So, like, Samantha and I get paid once every 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever, whenever they felt like finally sending that check in. And what we do is we just hold on to that, and thankfully all of our bills are being paid. Our wages are being paid. But, you know, like...
You budget and spend wisely.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I wouldn't take on those guys, like net 30s. I wouldn't deal with them until you've been in business for a while. Like, do all COD if you can. Because, like you're saying, you're fronting all that stuff for months. Like, if you're doing oyster mushrooms, I have to pay for labor, supplies, energy, everything up front. And then it's 2 to 3 weeks in incubation, another 10 days at least till you get your first crop in the grow room. And then if you're on a net 30, you're talking, I'm not getting paid for 2 or 3 months for something I paid for, you know, on the front end.
Yep.
So
and what happens if they just decide to say, we're done with you, and, you know, you've been doing 200 pounds a week to us, and, you know, we owe you for the last 5 weeks, so what? 1,000 pounds a month. We owe you 10 grand. We're just gonna not pay it. Like, we're just gonna be done with working with you. Like, what do you do then?
You have to take them to court. You have to take them to small claims, and that takes a long time, and that takes money.
And then, are you going to do that? Yeah. Are you actually going to go to small claims court? And, like, do you have the time to do that? And how much is that going to take away from your ability to grow your business?
Right.
Yeah. So just be careful.
So, I have a rule. I have a rule. I don't allow net 30s to become more than 30% of my business. So right now, when I say 60, I think they're actually sitting somewhere around 66%. Like 66% of my business is around CODs, and then like they're around, 33% or so of our actual income. And I have seen, there was a mushroom farm in Knoxville that we used to work with sometimes and compete against, but they became a single client customer. Like they got this one client that was buying everything they would produce. And I was like, that's great and all, but you better start producing more and finding new customers. Like, because when they're done with you, what are you going to do? And they never did find anybody new. They just kept hammering that one client. And the next thing you know, that one client's like, I'm done. And I don't want any of my further orders. Like, not only that, but like, I don't want all of my mushrooms you've been packing for weeks for. So.
Yeah. And like, I always have that same conversation with the head chef that, look, if you want mushrooms today, I needed to know it a month and a half ago.
Yes.
So when it comes time and you either want to increase your order or you want to stop, I really need you to give me like as much of a heads up as you can. Like ideally a month would be great, but even if you can give me 2 weeks, that would at least give me time to find a new account to take those mushrooms. Never happens. Okay, we're done.
Right. It's a hard pill to swallow.
Unfortunately, I have had a few situations where they're like, hey, we need to drop from 20 down to 10. But if you need us to buy 20 for like the next 2 weeks, like we will, because we said we would. It's those ones who they're still going to hang on, but they just overcommitted. Yeah. They'll let you know. They'll listen to you. But
oh, yeah. For sure, and I will say that
hey man, this isn't working out. We're gonna stop, and we're gonna stop today.
Right.
Like Oh, cool. That would have been nice to know a month ago.
Yeah, exactly. Before I paid all that money up front. I will say that Justin commented. He said the chef is definitely flexible. He's given us time to figure it all out. That's just the goal they're given to shoot for. So it sounds like that guy's going to let him build up to it and go slow, which is exactly what I would want to do.
Yeah, that's
and then
good.
Once I had that one client and I had him doing the 250 pounds, I'd start immediately growing more and looking for new chefs to hit up more to diversify my income.
That reasonable behavior and judgment is
it's
really
gold.
key.
It's golden, yeah, for sure.
You've got a really good client when they're like that.
And honestly, like if I was gonna do 250 pounds a week to one restaurant, I don't think I would do a net 30. I think I would do either do cash on hand or like a net 15 at most. Because man, like I said, if it goes 30 days and then they're like, we're just gonna be done with you, that's $10,000 that you're not getting. Be careful. Just be careful with that.
Absolutely. People, you always make sure you can take a hit and take those big hits.
I think the bigger the account, the more likely they are to fall back on their payments. The biggest accounts I have are always the ones where I'm in there making a delivery and then I grab the head chef. Hey, you guys haven't made a payment in 4 or 5 weeks. Oh yeah, we'll get that taken care of. It's never the 10 pounds a week restaurants. They're on it. They'll pay every single time. They never screw up. It's those big accounts that you got to be careful.
How you like being that collections bouncer, Ben?
Right?
Yeah.
So I've had to send Samantha in to go collect some checks for me before. Everybody knows she's the scary one.
You see Sam show up, watch out.
That's right. Well, man, I don't know about you, but it's been 3 hours, and I need to pee myself, and it's getting to the point where I think I'm done.
All right, yeah, cool. No, this has been fun. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for being on. This has been a good conversation. What is that from?
Last Samurai?
Oh, that is from The Last Samurai. You're right. Yeah, this has been a good conversation. So, Ben, just real quick before we jump off, thank you for being on here, man. This is something I'm wanting to do. I'd like to start doing every week, having a new grower on, and I'd like to have you back after a few months of you're setting your level up to 400. I'd like to hear when you hit 400 and when you've sustained it for a little bit. Maybe have you back on and see how you're feeling about the whole thing still.
Yeah.
And then again, man, I really appreciate you for being so willing to get in and open source this stuff with us and to work and exchange knowledge and just I think I've told you why I started the YouTube channel. Did I tell you about that? The Chang Ho transmissions and stuff.
I don't know about the chain of transmissions,
oh my gosh,
but
okay.
you told me about people will tell us how badly we're screwing up and it will make us better.
That's true too. So that was part of it. Part of it was I read a book about these space traders, and basically they start cruising for another planet, right? Most of what they trade is information and how-tos and stuff like that. But the whole time they're cruising for this planet, they're blasting transmissions at it, hey, we think there are people here. This is how you build a civilization as far as we know it. And here's most of the basic technology we have to offer. And so they're cruising towards this place, and by the time they get to where they're going, there's this general broadcast that's been going on. So now this civilization has grown up and they've built this technology based on the technology of these guys. And when they get there, these guys have created all their own little new variations on it. And so now they get to trade those new, better variations on each other. And I was like, oh man, if I start just hey, everybody on YouTube, this is how I built a mushroom farm, get this. And so, I get critiques, I get made better, but then I also get people...
Hey, man, you tried this.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So you make me a better... You are a client civilization that has made me better, so thank you. But no, man...
It's been a really... It's the coolest group to be a part of. Like I said earlier, it's the best kind of science, I get my science kick out of what we do, and it's also the Discord, it's such a cool community to be a part of and to be able to share this with people, and I don't feel that competitive, nervous, watch out, like these are my competitors. I genuinely like, I can't wait to share my new thing with you guys because I know tomorrow you guys are going to share your new thing with me, and it's a cool balance.
That's very true, man, and it's nice. Plus, all the shirtless conversations we get to have, and the
Actually,
drinking.
not as many shirtless conversations lately.
There haven't been a lot of shirtless conversations lately. Jesse needs to bring that back.
Jesse quit taking data, and
He
I
did.
think the shirts just have stayed on.
Well, we need to change that. Maybe tonight's the night. But yeah, man. I again just thank you for being on here. Thank you for being a part of this, buying in so hard, man. You've made me a better grower, and I appreciate you doing that.
Yeah, well, I can't say enough about how much I appreciate you guys and what you've done for me and the whole community. And honestly, like I've said it to you a million times already, but if it wasn't for you guys, like I'd still be a miserable grad student, and I wouldn't be waking up happy every day. So thank you.
You're welcome, man. I'm glad you're happy. Like that's. It's true. Like I've seen the difference in you. You're a lighter person now. So
Well, that's the
I
goal,
freaking love it.
is to build each other up and help each other grow. Growing while we grow.
Growing while we grow. Oh, by the way, have you seen the actual stream?
The actual stream.
Yeah. So did you notice Samantha's artwork off to the side?
Oh, I didn't, but I have it pulled up right here.
Do you? So that right there.
The Grow Eternal.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, you shared that. You shared that on Instagram the other day.
Oh, that's right. Or Facebook. I think I shared it on Facebook.
Yeah.
I don't think I've shared it on Instagram yet. I need to. That's my new favorite thing. So Samantha knows I love Fury Road. Mad Max Fury Road. And that is modeled after the steering wheels.
Right?
Yeah, the steering wheels, but they say Live Eternal, I think. So it's Live Eternal, all shiny and chrome. And I can't remember what Samantha and I were saying the other day, but she made that for me based off that, because I think I was saying you shall live eternal, all mushy and grow, or I can't remember what I was saying. But I've told her we need to do this, and then we need to have instead of flames coming off of it they need to have mushrooms coming off of it, in that pattern from it.
Flaming mushrooms.
Flaming mushrooms. I like that so much better.
Once upon a time, Sam threw out the idea that she was going to start taking everyone's logos and doing a new iteration of everyone's logos.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Take this opportunity to
working toward
refresh that in your
Yeah,
head.
let's put that back out in the ether.
And volunteer my logo as I just sent you the PNG file today.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
And better get around to it.
That's true. We do have the PNG, but she did make an alteration. She put you in your grow up.
That's true. My face is in the attic now.
That's right. All right, Ben. Have a good night, man. I'm sure I'll see you on later.
Yeah, if you're on the Discord later, I'll see you there. So.